something like that.
Mute my Discord. That's something that past Lyle should have done.
Okay.
Let's see here. This is kind of, I don't think I announced it anywhere either, so I don't think anyone's aware that it's happening.
It's okay.
But
it's okay. I'm
for
about
fun.
to do it. I'm about to do it, so it's okay.
This is a ask general questions and then pull topics from the video suggestions of Discord.
Okay.
While I play Monster Hunter.
That's good to me.
Boy, I love me some Monster Hunter. And
I
it's
know you
already
do.
getting hot in the room, so super fun.
That's not good.
I agree, but I've got that fan you sent me, so it's not so bad.
It's over for you. Farewell. You're done. Get ready. Nothing personal. Hope you've got assurance.
Okay, I'm posting the announcement now.
Okay.
I'll show you no mercy. You're done for.
It takes too long. Let's see what we got here. I need to do more of these per week as well.
Yes.
Just randomly start streaming.
A lot of people will join, so.
Eventually.
Might as well put this.
It's okay, we can give them a few minutes. I was thinking, would it be better to do the streams just late in the day?
Don't mind if I do.
What do you think?
It will work for the audience in America because their schedule would be better.
Yeah.
But the Europeans wouldn't be around, so but it would definitely work for America. Now, Saturday, most people that are in that one are not in the US.
I imagine most of my viewership is in the US. I would think.
Good.
6 p.m. seems to be like the most popular time, but I do think a lot of your audience is in the US. Does it appear in the analytics of YouTube or no?
I'm sure it does somewhere. I think almost I think virtually everyone is from the United States that watches my stuff. Don't know if they're super interested in streams though. But I want to interact with my community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When was your MBTI appointment?
It was at 4, so it was just to send me the link to go do the test because they do the written test first. And then I have a second Zoom meeting with her on Tuesday.
A Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Then, it's a video meeting where we do the second test and then she does the typing.
And how much was it?
$250.
That's pretty pricey,
Yeah, it is a little pricey.
What are they going to give you think?
I don't know. I'll have to see the questions first, and depending on what the questions are, I can assume what I'm going to get. But I think it'd probably be ENFP.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think they're going to type you as an INFP.
I know, don't do that.
I'm just throwing it out there.
There's no way. There's no way.
That would be funny.
No, it would not be funny. How would I put my money back? For who? You?
Well, yeah, to me it would be pretty funny. Granted, I've never,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever talked to an official MBTI typist,
Mm-hmm.
so who knows how they're going to treat you.
Well,
I
it was
assume
very
it'll be a
nice.
woman, though.
It was a woman.
Yeah, see, that makes sense.
You get to choose who you want it to be
Why?
with. Because you can either do it like via their email, or you can do it with like an actual person that's certified. And I chose to do it with someone that was certified that was also a psychologist.
Mhm.
So they give you like a list of who they have that you can go with, and I chose the one that I wanted. There's like 100 in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a job there.
Yes. I mean, but most of them are just like psychologists, and they go in there. But if you do the ones in the email typing, you should be able to do it. I was actually looking for a job there. I mean, not for me.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could get a job there. So I was searching. I think it was last month, and I couldn't really find.
They'd want their
Huh?
money. They expect me to pay $3,000 to go to their workshop or some shit and
Yes, they do.
do that. I'm just like, that's a big no.
Yeah. Who knows if there's a return on investment?
Maybe it depends on what their
Yeah.
yearly salaries are. It might have been worth it.
Yes.
Maybe it's none of
Exactly.
your business. We know that person, don't we?
Yes, I think.
I
I'm
think
trying to
we
get
know that
into. I'm trying to get into the comments of the video. What's up, homies?
How's it
I remember.
going?
This is Bob. This is the ENTP female,
Oh,
right?
Bob.
Right, Bob? It's you.
Hi, Bob.
She always has male names, so I kind of have to specify ENTP female.
Mhm.
Good thing we don't have many.
Good thing you don't have what?
We don't have many of those, or we
don't
would
have
be
many.
confused.
Yes, that's true. Very rare. Alright. I did notice that Bob was in the voice chat for a little bit, and they didn't say anything and left.
Yeah, she does that sometimes, but she has great questions. We have in the typology chat, I don't know if you've noticed that we kind of use that to really talk about MBTI, and she's probably one of the only ones that actually talks to Sleepy and I there.
Oh,
Yeah, and
more often.
yeah, the
I need to be in there
typology
more
chat is yeah, typology chat is a nice chat. It's a chill chat.
Had to leave to help employees, is what she says. No one's buying it, Bob. No one ever bought it.
That's a wrap.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry, pal.
If I didn't have this fan in here, I wouldn't be able to do it today in the stream.
I'll put this to good use. Don't worry.
It's just too hot.
Yeah, the good thing is end of September, so October is coming, which means that hey,
Yes. There was storm clouds earlier, but
Let's see.
didn't last long.
Pal.
Let's see here. How many people is watching? People are watching.
we have 5 people.
5 whole people?
And-
Oh, that's
yes.
good enough for me. Let's see. So today's stream is going to be just a MBTI general, which may be a more regular thing throughout the week, possibly, and we'll see how it goes. But you can ask any questions regarding MBTI, of course, which is pretty normal for my streams anyway. But I will also be grabbing topics from the video suggestions portion of my Discord. And so that's server suggestions. We're getting close. Okay, got it. Let's see what we can find here. Let's grab one at random. Someone named Zane. I thought, is Zane still? He's, a video suggestion about ENFJ types, so we can talk about we can talk about ENFJs. That's an option. Not necessarily a whole lot to say unless we pick at something specific, but ENFJs are more concerned about controlling people on their way to power. So there's that. They definitely care more about maintaining a social structure than they are much of anything else, as long as they're at the top of the social structure. So obviously they're expertly seductive. They usually, because of their cognitive function layout, they tend to get involved in a great many topics and subjects, so they're usually not lost for words when you bring something up. They usually have something to say about it, which makes them so likable among so many groups, and that's part of their power. That's how they bring people together so they can, manipulate them. A very, I call it the succubus personality, so that should probably cover most of that. What else do we got here?
Do you think an ENFJ male would resemble the ENTP male in the way that they manipulate people for their personal gains?
So when I'm manipulating someone, I take a deep personal interest in them for a very limited period of time. That's what I do. Usually an ENFJ will attempt to wrangle said person into a group activity so they can better get to know them, or have them assimilate into the social structure. They don't necessarily need to go in depth with that person. So my tactics for getting people to love me are significantly different. And of course, an ENFJ is going to be surrounded by people almost all the time. Let's see what we got here. Our high... Yes?
I was going to say, none of your business has a question.
Doesn't she always? Are
Yes.
high introverted feeling users always emotional? No, not always. We have emotional responses to situations that can evoke, emotional responses. So if you're just picking up the newspaper off the front porch, are you going to have an emotional response to that specific thing? Probably not. But if you're talking with someone about, let's say someone comes to you with some news like that, there was a school bus crash, this morning, yes, someone with a high preference for introverted feeling is going to have a bit more of an emotional response to, oh my God, what happened? Are the kids okay? Were there kids on the bus? They're going to go with that. Whereas someone who's not as preferenced will say, wow, that's unfortunate. Hopefully very few people were hurt in the incident. And then they move on with their day. So there's that. Yes, people with a preference for introverted feeling are going to have more of an emotional response to things. Let's see. So are high extroverted feeling users more manipulative than ENTP? Most certainly. Now, generally speaking, you're going to find higher preferenced extroverted feelers as females. That's been my experience over the past 10 years. Most first, second position extroverted feelers, they're generally speaking female. So that's how it is. Women have evolved to be more, on average, more manipulative when it comes to social situation. Now, that's for good or bad. I know manipulative gets a negative connotation, but it's using what influence you have to get the results that you want without the need for physical confrontation. Women are just typically more suited to do that. They've evolved that way. So, yes, they can be much more manipulative. Sleepy said he feels detached from his emotion, but he's an ENFP. Yeah, you just told me that he feels detached. Sleepy expresses himself with his personal opinions, feelings, ethics, morals, values, etc. It's in his speech. So just because here's a better way to frame it. You don't need to be talking about your feelings to let people know how you feel. It's not required. I don't have to go around telling people that I'm sad. All I need to do is be a little more sluggish in my responses to things, have more of a melancholic sound to my responses and whatnot. There's many things that people do regularly that expresses how they feel. Whether it's an angry outburst or throwing something across the room. Those are expressions of introverted feeling. Sleepy expresses his feelings, he just doesn't come out and say, oh, I'm sad about this or I'm angry about this. No, he does things. So that's what he does.
Sleepy says that, but he definitely is more on the emotional side for an ENFP. He's like what I like to say, an unhealthy ENFP.
He's an unhappy one.
Yeah, he always says, oh, I don't express my emotions, I don't say this, but he always says, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, he always has an emotional response. Yeah, his voice is very emotional.
Yeah, so don't, just because someone doesn't tell you that they're happy and sad about things, it doesn't mean that they're not experiencing introverted feeling. It simply means that they're not directly addressing how they feel, but they're expressing them in another way. Why aren't ESTPs regarded as manipulative? Who doesn't regard ESTPs as manipulative? I do. They only manipulate when it stands to benefit them. So for the most part, when they're in a social situation, they just get well enough for people to like them, and then that's good, and then they go about their business. They don't need to take it any further than that. I mean, if they're looking to have a romantic time with someone, then they'll focus on that person and then, do the manipulative things. But outside of that, unless they see a benefit in it for them, they're not going to be that interested. So ESTPs can and are probably more regularly manipulative. So I regard them as manipulative anyways. And if someone doesn't regard them as manipulative, then they're probably talking about an ISTP. Most likely.
ESTPs do tend to be in the nicer side of the spectrum, so they tend to be a personality that people can get along with easier. So they might not seem manipulative because of that.
Yeah, Ven has been talking to my cousin, who's an ESTP, and he's fun, right?
Yeah,
vaguely.
I like him. He's very chill. It's like they have a relaxing vibe. Although they can be like fun, and they're joking and they're energetic, but at the end of the day, you feel relaxed around them. Like they have a calming presence in a way. Although they're all these things and a lot of energy, but you feel calm in their presence. Like you enjoy being around them.
There you go. ESTPs are cool. If I could change my personality type, I would go with ESTP. Are they more of the player type of people? Typically, yes. They are more of the in quote player, the playboy. They generally will work, make a good amount of money, and then go spend it on having fun. That's what they do. Let's see, got lots of hoes. Yes, ESTPs typically have lots of hoes. Is the lady speaking black? She's more brown. She's Dominican. So.
What kind of question is that, though?
Someone who's very concerned about your skin color.
Yeah.
One Erwin Leonardo. All right, let's take a look at what else do we got here. React to those MBTI Reddit posts of people posting selfies asking you to guess their type disgustingly. That was from Artsy KK, one of the... Was she an INFJ? Like one of the three that I typed?
She is one of the three.
not very many. Let's see here. We can go to the Reddit. Oops. Let's see. Reddit MBTI guess my type. Oh, apparently there was something posted a week ago on this one. Okay, no, this isn't right. This is dumb.
Oh, my accent. Yeah, see, most people tend to ask me if I'm Hispanic, not black, so I thought that was a different question. I like it.
Wait,
It was
so
different.
are you Hispanic or black or both?
Technically, both. It's
Technically
because
both.
the way that black is defined in the U.S. is different than other parts in other countries. But we're not gonna get into that.
I hit the diversity jackpot here. She's black, she's Hispanic, and female, right? So I win. Pretty sure that's how it works. Do
Yeah.
extroverted feeling users recognize when other extroverted feeling users are being manipulative? Most certainly. As an extroverted feeling preferenced person, you understand what people are doing. Like when they say so, like when they say certain things or they gesture in certain ways, certain facial expressions, you are aware that the person is doing it simply to manipulate the situation. It's it's commonly, I mean, as long as you pay enough attention to the inconsistencies in someone's behavior, you can tell whether or not they're faking things. So it's so yeah, if you have a preference for the other people, then you will notice. Most certainly. Have you guys seen the Mentalist show yet? Nope. Have you seen Lie to Me? Great show. I need to watch that tonight after I finish Trinity 7.
Wait. Yeah, I was gonna say we still have Trinity 7.
Still haven't finished High School DxD either.
Yeah.
So I just have this huge list of things to catch up on, apparently. Longsword sucks, by the way. If anyone watching has ever played Monster Hunter, Longsword is just an awful weapon for the end game content. So that sucks. What else do we got here? Guess my type. Guess my type based on this pictures. Someone didn't spell that correctly.
Let us see what you're seeing on this Reddit.
I will. I might.
I might.
Let's see what we got here. Guess my type based on this pictures. I don't know. I this is the kind of question that like an INFP will ask people. this kind of stuff. What am I supposed to get from this?
See, I think most people understand when you're being manipulated is just the degree as to or what if maybe you want something from them, you will let it happen because in the end you think that you have maybe a leg up on them or something like that. Or sometimes you just don't know. Like there's some personality types I think might be oblivious sometimes.
Men would try to say things to me to get into bed. Well, I mean, yeah, that most men are going to do that. That would work on other women, and I always thought, do you think I'm dumb enough to fall for this? And then I'd wonder how the heck others fall for it. Well, maybe those women were just looking for a certain level of competency in their ability to pick up women. Let's see here. Seriously, Patrick Jane is an ENTP. The show is like in the caliber of House MD.
That's gonna be a tough sale for this man who watches
sell.
House every day, all day.
Let's see what we got here. The Mentalist. So, Patrick Jane. Let's find out who Patrick Jane is. Okay, so it's this person. All right, that's enough of that. I will have to look more into that. Let's see. We can all smell manipulation. We just play along with it if it's fun, and out manipulating them is a challenge. It would certainly be. It's always a challenge to try and convince someone to do what you want when they are aware that you're trying to convince them to do what you want. So it's always better to be candid.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just tell people I'm going to do this, and then they already know. I'm just honest from the beginning, because that way, even though they know what I'm doing, they'll still want to do it.
This is
Because they don't feel manipulated.
Yeah. I try to guess my type stuff and nothing really comes up. Oh well. Let's see what else we got. Let's see here. The breaking down the MBTI of Lord of the Rings characters, and then this was Druid, and he wants to see it broken down for other characters as well. Any characters in mind? A breakdown of maybe a character I actually know about?
Well, we watched Tangled the other day.
Well, I mean, you watched Tangled. I was vaguely paying attention to Tangled. So, yeah, that.
Oh, come on. You can't give me a, maybe the main male's character?
Tangled, who was the girl with the long hair?
Rapunzel. What's Rapunzel?
I knew that. Why did I ask? She seemed like an INFP.
Oh, not an ENFP?
No. Did not
okay,
seem
perfect.
Like an ENFP.
I was doubting the ENFP typing too, because people were saying ENFP and I could not see it. So I was hoping you weren't going to agree with the ENFP type.
I did not agree with the... She was very spastic. Like, everything that she did was colored in introverted feeling. Like, everything that she did. It would seem to me that her lead preference was introverted feeling, second preference for extroverted intuition. Let's see.
What about Flynn Rider, the man?
I didn't watch enough. I know that he tried to use his physical appearance to get what he wanted. A bit of a thief, but he seemed incompetent at everything that he was doing. Did he talk a lot about his adventures and how he wanted to go on adventures and do things and see new stuff and things like that? Or was he more just about, getting money and trying to look good to impress people?
It was more about getting money and trying to look good to impress people. I don't think it was just to impress people. It was mainly because he was, very, very poor, and he just didn't want to be poor anymore. So that's why he was working. I don't think the people aspect was more. I think his personal opinion on it was more important than how people saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like, I don't want to be broke, and I want to have something to eat.
So was he an ESFP?
I thought about that, but he is not. Oh, I'm not gonna say that. But he's not. I don't think he was an ESFP. I actually thought he might be an ESTP, and they just we don't get to see a lot of him, what he likes to do or wants to do aside from him trying to earn money so he can have food. So that's pretty much all we get to see. We don't really have a background on him aside from that he's poor. That's all we know. So
Okay.
yeah.
So we don't know a lot about him then. Just there's that. Well, he is an ESFP until further notice. Let's see here. Can you explain what the inferior function looks like in types? Like in all 16? Do I need to go on a list or? Well, as a broad generalization, the function that's in the 4th position, I call it the disdained function. So the person has a problem with this function. They're aware of it. They know it's a part of their life, but they don't like it. They would rather default back to another function before wanting to use this one. So so just figure out what function that is, and then the person does not like it. Example would be, let's say, an ISFJ. Their 4th function is extroverted intuition. So if you try to come at them with a bunch of like wild ideas about things that don't exist, things that exist in thought forms, hypotheticals, theories, etc., they're going to get very bored and say, that's fine and that's cool, but I'm not very interested in it. It's not a part of reality. It's not, you don't know if your plans are going to work out. You should just stick to what is known to work so that you can have a, in quote, happy life. That's how an ISFJ would treat most of my crazy ideas. As an example.
Yes, I had to force my best friend to watch Lord of the Rings with me. Because
there you go.
She was not going to do that.
You're talking about
Ariana.
Baku something.
Yes,
something.
Baku. Yeah.
Let's see. How can you tell the difference between an ENFP and INFP? Like, how do you spot what their lead function is between introverted feeling and extroverted intuition? So, for we're in this particular instance when we're talking about the girl from Tangled, we're looking at how often she was using her introverted feeling, which was virtually the entire time. So whether she realized it or not, she was expressing her personal feelings all the time, whereas an ENFP will approach situations in a more balanced manner. They're not going to just constantly be freaking out about everything that's going on. They can be expressive with their feelings, most certainly, but it's not how you would immediately perceive them. Whereas the Rapunzel character, she was just overly excited all the time and joyous about things. And then when she was sad, she was really sad. And when she was angry, she would get angry. And she never took a balanced approach to any situation that came her way. So that lets me know that introverted feeling was in the lead position. Let's see. Can you explain inferior extroverted sensing? The one I struggle to understand. So we're talking about extroverted sensing in the 4th position. So we're talking about 2 personalities specifically. We're talking about INTJs and INFJs. So instead of focusing on what's going on around them, which they're aware of, they would rather focus on their future goals, plans, and ambitions. And so their extroverted sensing, it's there, they are aware of it, and they think about how they can maybe better themselves, like their physical surroundings and whatnot. Like you're not going to come across an INFJ or an INTJ that has a super messy surrounding, except for maybe when they're under the age of 10. But outside of that, they don't like the mess. They can't handle it very well, and so they tend to take care of to make sure that they have a relatively organized space. But as they get older, you'll notice that they start, once they've got other plans in motion, they start working on themselves physically. Just INFJs and INTJs, they exercise, as an example. I have yet to speak to an INTJ that wasn't on a regular exercise routine. Not one. Not a one. Even my mother, who would be now 55 years of age, still tries to exercise. and she has a diet that makes her look like a skeleton. So
You did not have to do her like that.
what?
You did not have to do her like that.
She doesn't watch my stuff. It's fine. If you were to break up the function usage in percentage between the top three, what would they be? Like dominant is... So if we're talking about the lead function, then unless you're asleep, everything gets processed through through the lens of that first function. So that's all the time. It's not, you cannot turn that function off. Whatever's in the lead position, it cannot be turned off. It is constantly in your mind, whether it's one of the thinking ones, or feelings, intuition, sensing. If it's in the very lead position, it's always going on, and you can't turn it off. So I'm not sure, like, in terms of the use in like real life, though. It depends on whether or not they want to express it, and that's hard to quantify. But I would say probably 75 to 80% of what you're doing with your life revolves around that first function. Second function, well, see, so for me, that would be, closer to like 70%. I mean, your first two functions more or less make up who you are. And I've seen some theories on it, like they would say the first function was 75%, and then the second function's like 50%, and then it would just keep, going down from there. I've seen those, but to quantify that, that would take too much time to take each individual and then like follow them around for a week and see which functions they were preferencing in terms of their relation to reality. That would be tough. But your first two functions more or less make up who you are. So if you're, let's say if you're an ISTJ, your whole life is based on storing and recalling memory, and then followed by making sure that you are in modern day times. Extroverted thinking usually involves trying to make money, because that's what most people believe is the way to be successful in life, is to just acquire money. So you'll find a lot of ISTJs, depending on where they live, of course, they'll just be working a basic job, or they'll be out robbing a liquor store, or hustling money from people, doing whatever they have to do to make money. And so that's more or less their life. But 9 times out of 10, you ask a specific question of any particular type, and they'll always try to attack it or tackle the situation or the question using those first two functions. 9 times out of 10. I usually in my head thinking and processing things to make sense to me, and I struggle to see the extroverted intuition, even though I know it's there, because it's ruining my life. Well, right. So every time you decided, well, I could do this, or I could research this really useless, unproductive topic, you've decided to use extroverted intuition. You've decided that that was a better use of your time. Not being able to focus on the things you need to do to improve your life, and instead doing other things, you're making a decision to branch out and think of the possibilities on some random subject someplace else. So
I always like to say the dominant function is always humming in the background.
you can't turn it off. It's not something that you can turn off. Whatever that first function is, it doesn't go away. That's why certain types like INTPs and ISTPs have a more difficult time getting people, or not necessarily understanding them, but getting people to like them, because they have to color everything through logical consistency. Now, obviously, as they get older, they get a lot better about it. But in the early periods of their life, someone says something that they believe to be wrong, they're going to let them know about it, even if the context of the situation didn't require them to say anything. They'll, say something anyway. Okay, but why doesn't introverted thinking come in and say, "Hey, that doesn't make logical sense"? Because for an ENTP, the logical sense comes after the extroverted intuition. So to an ENTP, the ideas are more, having the ideas are more important than whether or not they make any logical sense. You come up with the idea, and then you can, put it through the filter of introverted thinking. Okay, well, I have this idea about this. Does it actually make sense? Probably not. I mean, maybe you can make an argument that it could make sense, but it probably won't to most people, and then you go on from there. I tell people that I'm a master of suspension of disbelief. Just tell me a story that's entertaining. I can choose not to analyze it. I mean, yeah, some things are going to stick out, some things are going to bother me. And if I am particularly interested in the subject, it is much harder for me to not say anything about it. I had a big problem with the what was that third Star Wars movie? Was it The Return of Skywalker?
I've never seen it.
I think that's what it was called. I had to take breaks. I needed to pause it so that I could complain about something and then turn the movie back on. Especially I almost quit the movie when I watched Rey shoot lightning from her fingertips. I almost quit. I was like, I'm done. I used the phrase, "Who wrote this?" like 4 times during the movie, and I never do that to any movie ever. Even The Last Jedi, an abominable piece of cinema, yet I still could mostly keep it. I probably let loose a few comments about it during the movie, but for the most part, I shut up and I complained about it afterwards. But the Rise of Skywalker, the Return of Skywalker is one of those. I couldn't keep my mouth shut through that.
See, that surprises me because typically when a movie is bad, you will enjoy it because it will make you laugh.
Yeah, like I don't watch 47 Meters Down Uncaged because it was just a great film. No, I watch it to laugh. I'm having fun with it. Let's see.
Like crying over Twilight laughing the other day. That was fun.
Mm-hmm. That's what they're good for. Like, why wouldn't introverted thinking come in and say exploring different things right now is going to cause you to have less time to complete this project, so don't do that? Because that's more of a extroverted thinking thing to think. Introverted thinking will try to rationalize why it is you're choosing to do this. It's like, well, I'm more interested in this subject, even though I should be doing this project. But realistically, if I start doing this project and I'm bored, I'm just going to be sitting there not doing anything. Or I'm just going to, lollygag and, maybe end up screwing it up because I'm not paying that much attention to it. So it's better if I just research the things that I want to do. And then when I'm satisfied with that, then maybe I can come back to the project. That would be a way that that you would use introverted thinking to rationalize you not doing the project. Introverted thinking just cares about the logical consistency, and if you realize that you continuing with the project is not going to really help all that much, then you're not going to do it. If you're not interested, you're not interested, and we know that if you're not interested in things, you tend to put less focus on it. Everyone knows that. I would think most people know that. My mother would say, that's not, of course, a good enough excuse. You need to spend all your time focusing on that. And then when I'm just staring at, a couple of sentences on a piece of paper for the past 4 hours, you realize that you just wasted a whole bunch of time. When you could have been doing something more fun, like making your own games or drawing or researching another subject. You could have been spending that time doing something you enjoyed doing, which is why I didn't do homework. Which is why my grades were terrible.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody.
Yes, all 5 of you. Make sure to like and subscribe.
There's 9, okay?
Oh, there's 9? All 9 of you. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Yes.
Hello, Joseph.
And join the Discord.
And join the Discord. No one adds me on Discord anymore. Like, people are just talking amongst themselves. I don't get added.
No one's talking about MBTI either.
And no one talks about MBTI. We have a lot of introverted and extroverted Well, just extroverted sensing
Sensors.
people, but
Yeah.
we have a lot of those. Would that be extroverted intuition for wanting to keep exploring possibilities, or introverted thinking for wanting to understand? Well, you can't do both. That's the stereotypical combination: extroverted intuition, introverted thinking. That applies to both ENTPs and INTPs. They want to logically understand the theories, the hypotheticals, the possibilities. Obviously, INTPs are less interested in people, more interested in things. Things like black holes and the quantum mechanics, faster than light travel. They're more. They lean more towards those types of subjects, whereas an ENTP might lean a little more towards the people aspect. Because we don't think you'll respond. Well, if you at me, then typically I'll respond, especially if it's an MBTI question. Now, granted, that being said, if I'm playing Monster Hunter and I get added and I hear the beep or whatever, sometimes I forget. But if you keep bothering me, I will absolutely be paying attention to it.
It's okay, Bob. Just keep putting in your questions in typology chat, and then I'll maybe try to lure him to the chat.
Yeah, either that or I just need to start doing more live streams so I can answer questions in real time. That forces me to answer them. So.
Wait. Okay, so I was going to say that it was funny hearing Sweet say that his grades were bad as an extrovert intuitive. And I remember my grades were great, and then I would do 3 or 4 other homeworks that were like my friends' homeworks because I didn't want them to not pass the classes. So I would also do their homeworks to make sure that they made it to the next semester. And I had to do like 4 different essays.
But that's not a combination of extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. That what I'm talking about, that specific combination of extroverted intuition and introverted thinking. So
no, that's what I mean. Like it's nice to see like the difference between both of us. Like we both have it in the lead, but
in ENFP has introverted feeling, so they care more about that, obviously. But they also have a preference for extroverted thinking. And extroverted thinking says you need to do these things to be successful. And you want to be successful, right? You want to feel good you want to feel proud of your accomplishments and things like that. So you're going to be, and I'm not saying that ENFPs are these stout, super conscientious workers either. They're just more so than an ENTP is going to be.
Mm-hmm. See, now Bob is just insulting us FI users. She's like, the damn feelers want to talk about superficial stuff they could text each other about, but decide to make it everybody else's problem. The only ones responding to her questions are the FI users, Bob. I don't know if you realize this, but Bob. Only ENFPs are responding. Yeah, we really like your questions because we don't really get to talk to other people other than ourselves about it, so it's pretty nice to have you in the chat asking those questions. Seagull was asking too about MBTI yesterday, so it was pretty nice to talk to that with him. Yeah.
I'm glad someone's asking about it. I noticed that my entire Discord has shifted from MBTI related questions to literally everything else, which is fine. It would be nice if people would talk to me about MBTI. That was the whole point of the Discord. At least I can answer those questions in a more objective manner. When someone asked me, I think I was asked today, how do you feel about religion? I don't know. I said, well, some religions are good for societies on a more objective scale, and some are not. And they're like, no. What is your personal, what do you value? Like, what religion do you, whatever? And I'm like, I don't really subscribe to religion. I'm not a particularly religious person. Victory! No. Whoever Kina is. Yeah, there was she someone I was supposed to type at some point? I don't remember. But
maybe at some point.
See you later.
Yeah, I don't remember. I do remember that she. Yeah, is she an ESFP? I don't remember.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So there's been a lot of ESFPs in the chat, and Bob has a expressed her feelings about that and opinions.
Let's see what we got here. I showed up for this hunt, and the monster died shortly after. Can you explain the differences between ENTPs and ENFPs? I know the functions are different, but can you explain how they process the world through introverted thinking and extroverted feeling, or introverted feeling and extroverted thinking? Can I explain literally every single difference? Well, I won't do that, but what we will do is talk about a more generalized understanding. So a lot of people, early on in my MBTI career, a lot of people would say that introverted feeling was the slowest function to process information, because the person just really had to know how they felt about something before doing it. Just going with your feelings is probably one of the fastest ways to make a decision by a lot.
Right, I was about to say what?
Just going with your instinct. That's it. You don't have to spend hours of your life contemplating on whether or not you need to do this thing or decide to spend time in this way. You don't need to think about it in a logical manner. You simply need to go with what you feel is right. So the way that, and then we're just talking about how the functions are different, but so an ENFP will go through their life with considering a lot of different possibilities for a lot of different things. They'll know, do they like it? Do they feel good about it? If yes, move on to the next thing. If no, they may decide to wonder why they don't feel good about it. But once again, that's not necessarily what they're interested in. They're more interested in, does it feel right or not, and and then move on to the next thing. And of course, they make a lot of those processes. They make hundreds, if not thousands, of those processes on a day-to-day basis. And then they have extroverted thinking, so they follow it up with, is this logically good or logically bad? Well, if most people believe it's logically good, there you go, thumbs up, and then we go from there. And if most people think it's not, then they try to spend their time on things that are good for them. Whereas in ENTP, so that's introverted thinking and then extroverted feeling in the second and third position, they wonder about a possibility, then they have to spend a large portion of their day wondering whether or not it's correct, in whatever objective measurement they choose to use on that on that particular subject. And then as for the extroverted feeling, well, it simply means that they don't express themselves very often. They want to logically break down whatever the issue is and then explain it. They don't necessarily, they don't want to really give their opinion on things, because of course your opinion is subjective and there's no real right or wrong answer to it. So that's more of a speculative process. And so that's why ENFPs tend to get things done faster and more efficiently, whereas ENTPs tend to be a lot slower about making decisions. So maybe that's a more basic way to look at it.
That was the best description so far that you've given between the differences of an ENTP and an ENFP.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
No. I've had issues with the other ones. This one I thought was pretty spot on.
Okay.
This one was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. In case people wondering why I've slowed down on a lot of my usual content, slowed down. I was very ill for many, many weeks, and so I barely had the energy to get on camera. So, and that could be from a great number of things. It was probably due to a massive vitamin D and calcium deficiency, and of course the immense heat that I've been experiencing. But I've got a fan now, and I've been drinking milk. So for the past 5-6 days, and I've been feeling a lot better. Let's see. What do you think about combination of functions looking similar to singular functions, and how can you differentiate between those two? Combinations of functions looking similar to singular functions. I don't know of combination of functions looking similar to singular functions. It's, of course, difficult to understand exactly what's going on in someone's head at any given moment. But if we're talking about in terms of function combinations, the one I like to use is empathy. Well, what is empathy in terms of MBTI? Well, that's a combination of extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. It's literally the perspective of someone else and the feelings on it. And so there is no other function that is empathy. So there's that. Maybe you can give me an example of
I
two
think
functions looking like another function.
it would be the easiest example that I can think about right now is TE plus FI, and an INTJ looks like TI sometimes. The way that they will start with T, but they'll end with FI. I know that sounds weird,
Yeah, it does
but
sound weird.
there's I know to you
The
because I've never
thing,
even told you this.
the thing we have to remember is that everyone uses all the functions every day. An INTJ, they have a stronger preference for extroverted thinking, but they also have somewhat of a preference for introverted thinking. It is there. It exists. Is it to the same degree? Obviously not, but it is there. And they can logic things out. They just would prefer to get a quick, easy answer and move forward. But if they come across a novel problem that requires their logic, they will marshal together whatever resources they have and then try to figure it out themselves. It may take longer because they're not as preferenced as certain other personalities, but they'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, but they're not really using TI. It's like it's definitely FI just because their explanations sounded very textbook, right? And then they went into a more of a gut instinct approach. The combination of it when you're listening to someone and you're not sure which about the cognitive functions, you're like, oh, is this TI because they did this and then they did this, and you're like, oh no, that was a T response.
When they
But then he went into his
rationalize,
values.
like when they articulate to you why they think what they're thinking, they're literally telling you about their logical thought process, their personal introverted thinking, like that's what introverted thinking is. It's personal understanding and logic. So when someone's choosing to articulate it a great deal when having conversation, that means they have more of a preference for introverted thinking. That's it. Now, if you've ever had an argument with someone whose preference is extroverted thinking, they love to just appeals to authority or appeal to ridicule. They don't want to think critically on a lot of abstract topics. They would rather just tell you what someone else thought was to be correct and that most people believe to be correct. And then they will cite that person. Citing information from someone is one of the purest forms of extroverted thinking.
Yeah. Like a resident ESTJ.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But basically, that's what it means. Like the combination of the functions. Sometimes, like it's a theory.
So introverted thinking is why I get stuck down rabbit holes. Well, yes. In your particular instance, if you are someone that has a strong preference for introverted thinking, that is what's going to get you stuck in a lot of things. But if you have a preference for introverted feeling and you're looking for, let's say, who you are and how you react to things, well, you're more interested in your feelings on the matter, whether or not there's a more moral, ethical component to the system, to whatever it is that you're looking at. Okay, see, this is why I'm confused. Extroverted intuition wants to keep exploring and jumps from thing to thing, and I can do that, but if I find something that has many layers to understand, I get stuck for a while on it. Well, as long as you find it interesting, most certainly. Oh, bye, Joseph. Streets is the illest dude. That's true, and thank you, Joseph. Remember to like and subscribe. Is that introverted thinking's fault? Why is introverted thinking so strong then? Shouldn't extroverted intuition overpower that? No, only if you have a stronger preference for extroverted intuition. There's a difference between, as I said, there's a difference between living with a function your entire life and then actively focusing on one. So if you're actively focusing on one, it may seem like that's something that you're preferencing all the time, but realistically in the background, extroverted intuition is always going. It doesn't stop.
And the difference why you can see so many layers and like the perspectives is because of your NE. Because your NE is the one processing that information. And they're like, oh, I see this, and then I see this. And then you have many ideas because of that NE.
Mm-hmm. So I tell, most people know me as just being logical. If something makes sense, that's what I care about. But in reality, what's going on in here is something far different than just always being logical all the time. There's a whole lot of illogical things that go on in my brain on the regular. However, when I'm expressing those things, I want to express them in a very logical manner. And so I'm normally focusing on whether or not something makes sense. Let's see. Actively focusing. So when someone comes to me with a problem, I am actively talking about the thought process behind whatever the problem is. So this thing happened because of this, and this. And if we choose to go in this route, then I believe that this will happen, and then this will happen based on these reasons and rationalizations. But in my mind, when someone's bringing the problem, I'm usually imagining what it is that happened, the possible circumstances therein, whether or not other people might have been involved. That's what I'm doing, and I can't turn it off. So someone says, hey, my car doesn't turn on. Okay, when was the last time you were able to turn it on? You know, when did the car turn over last, and how long was it since when you were able to turn it over? So was it you used your car last week and then you didn't use it till today, which was like 7 days later, and now it's not working? Okay, well, we can go from there to understand the problem. But the point is that first I'm wondering what happened and all the possibilities for why the car is not turning over. Is it a dead battery? Did the starter freeze because of the cold weather? I already covered the battery's dead. Are you even using the right key when trying to turn your car on? But without further data, of course, I can only speculate, but that's what you're going to do first. You're going to speculate on what the problem could be, and then you're going to try to rationalize what the problem might be after those, with those ideas. So there is a process. You go from one layer to the next, but it usually happens, it works, they work together, so it can be difficult to differentiate between whether or not you are preferencing extroverted intuition over introverted thinking or not, because once again, it's a part of your life. So noticing,
which I found noticing.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say I found that a lot of people do get annoyed when they ask something, and then I start asking them, "Well, did you do this? Do that? Does this happen? Is this what went on?" And they're like, "I don't remember." So they tend to get a little upset because they're like, "Well, why are you questioning me?" Well, I'm just trying to get to the solution. Like, you have a problem, let's try to solve it.
Can you explain extroverted thinking more? Yes, I can. Did you want me to? Or was that we just wanted to ask that? Yeah. Anyways, extroverted thinking for established societal correctness. That is generally how I phrase extroverted thinking. So, is space real? Well, you talk to virtually anyone that knows what space is, outer space, they'll say yes. Well, why? That's the real question. Some people will tell you that space is real because the scientists say space is real, and we trust scientists. Extroverted thinking. You are trusting the science. So science tells you that space is real, therefore it is real. Fine. And then some people will say that I believe space is real because of the way that it was explained, possibly, and that they were able to, so for example, when let's say we get some drops of water, right? Or you've got some water in your hand, and then you just turn your hand over and you let it drain, your follow through with your fingertips. As it comes off, in gravity, it just forms mostly into these balls, drops. So if we take that idea, and then we take the idea that at one point, celestial bodies, planets were just giant balls of magma, the gravity would form them into these more orb-like things. Therefore, why wouldn't the planet have formed in such a manner? And if that is the case, then wouldn't it also be in kind of a vacuum? Not necessarily falling, but in some form of suspended gravity, possibly. Things like that. Trying to rationalize whether or not space is real. That was just off the top of my head. Rationalizing whether or not it's real. I don't know if space is real because I haven't seen it in a way that would allow me to understand that, yes, the Earth is just a ball in what is essentially a layer of nothing, and just kind of looking like it's floating there. I haven't seen it, but I have my reasons to suspect that space is real. Now, other people, of course, won't go that far with it. Some people are simply not interested. And then, of course, there's some people that have a very strong preference for extroverted thinking, and they just believe that it's real because that's what was taught in school. That's what the scientists say. That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson says. So, and if he says it's real and that's how it is, then by God, that's how it is.
See, I'm more simple than that. I had a telescope. I saw.
I had a telescope and I saw it. Well,
stars
how do you
and
know?
planets.
How do you know that that's not just some kind of weird speck
Simulation.
in this
I
in
don't
the
know.
curtain of night? How do you know it's not just that? So
I
that's
don't know that.
now. Here's the thing: is that so when it comes to a lot of sciencey things, we had a lot of introverted thinkers do all this stuff for us. And then that's turned into what we know as, as streamlined science information, knowledge, scientific knowledge. So that's usually how it is. We have introverted thinkers do the hard work on discovering these things, and then we have the extroverted thinkers who enforce it. So
All right.
that is how that works. Let's see. Mo, line, KOK, line.
Pee-wee, anybody with any in the first position is going to be blanking out during conversation.
That makes sense. What function stack would you attribute most to blanking out during conversation? Well, that depends, because if you talk to an ESFP and they're not particularly interested in you or the conversation, they will space out. They'll be thinking about other things, like whether or not they're hungry, or whether or not the clothes that you're wearing are appealing to them or not. They'll be thinking about a great many other things besides what it is that you're talking about.
See, I have an issue with that, and I'll tell you why. I agree, because it always depends on the topic, right?
It depends on the topic.
But would they really be blanking out, or would they just already be talking and not realizing that nobody else is listening to what they're saying?
A lot of them will just keep talking, most certainly.
Exactly. That's why I wasn't including them there, because they wouldn't stop.
I at the very least, I will say that yes, a lot of extroverted intuitives, if they are not interested in the topic of conversation, they will be doing something else. Thankfully, I have a computer, so when someone's talking to me on voice chat and they're being less than interesting, I can just go on a hunt, Monster Hunter. Mm-hmm. They'll talk and they'll say some things, and every so often I'll be like, yeah, no, totally, yeah.
That is true. See, I space out even when I find the conversation interesting, just because maybe something more interesting at that moment
could be
came along.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why people would want to space out. Some types are a little more direct, and they'll tell you, hey, this conversation's really boring and I'm not interested and I haven't been listening. Some of them will be more apt to say that, but
yeah, I will let you know if I spaced
see.
out.
Space isn't real, by the way. It could be a simulation. It's anything's possible. That's what I tell people. Anything is possible. Man, I am tired. What if someone is talking about fairly mundane topics like football or what their day consists of? Well, if they're talking about how their day has been, you would have to look for whether or not they're going into extreme detail about how their day has been. Or if they say something like, yeah, today just sucked because I had to do this, this, and this. So my day was bad or terrible or good, possibly. And so if we're wondering about what function that is, introverted sensors, so that's people, once again, that's people who have a preference for introverted sensing in the first or second position. They will be able to recall far more uninteresting details about how their day was. They won't just tell you about the 2 or 3 things that, bothered or intrigued that person and then move on with the conversation. No. They'll tell you what was really cool, why it was cool, and what happened after that. And that's how an introverted sensor usually does their things. Let's see.
But it also depends again on the topic, because the day might be mundane to most people, but sports is not always a mundane. I wouldn't consider it a
talk to me
mundane
about
topic.
football. I grew up in California. My family was a 49ers family, so that's what we watched, all of us. Always followed the 49ers. And so I started paying attention to football. It had been years. Like, I must have gone a full decade and a half not caring about football anymore, because the Niners started to not have great seasons for multiple reasons. But the past couple of years, started paying attention to it, and then talk to me about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, don't know. Last I heard, he wasn't starting for the Niners, and I know that I've missed a couple games, but I really hope he gets back in there. He's going to be like if they can get him as a first string quarterback, he's going to be like the next, possibly maybe the next Steve Young. Maybe. Possibly.
See, I don't know anything about American football, but I know about the real football and baseball.
Real football. I'm sorry, but we live in America, and anything outside of America isn't real. So, end of story on that one. Question, you said introverted feeling wants to learn MBTI to explain themselves. What if you want to learn about the functions in yourself to better understand the functions, since you live with yourself every day? What if you want to learn about the functions in yourself? Well, there's many reasons why someone might want to learn. Now, if I were to want to learn about the functions that I use, it's so that I can gain a greater consistency with the MBTI information.
And I also wouldn't say that FI learns MBTI to explain themselves. I started MBTI because I was writing, and I wanted to make sure that my characters were consistent, and that's the reason why I wanted to learn more about MBTI. So
and so Ven went with a more extroverted thinking route in her knowledge of MBTI. I'm just saying that an introverted feeler might want to just, like INFPs, for example, they of course have, the INFPs have identity issues, because it's so easy for them to just emulate the behaviors of other people. And so a lot of them come to me about MBTI just to gain a better understanding, like, what functions am I using, because I'm not 100% certain what my type is. And they want to know. It would, feel good to them to understand.
Yeah, ENFPs are not like that. We don't need to feel good about it, I would say. I'm not.
ENFPs often do things they don't feel good about.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think a lot of the things that I do, I don't feel good about, but I do them because they might benefit someone else.
Okay. Let's see. What's the type of your co-host? My co-host is Lady V, and she's an ENFP. And she's proud of it, I think.
Am I? Are you sure? Because
I just say stuff and hope that it works. So
you know what I want to be.
Ven wants to be an ENTJ, but unless we can figure out exactly, where to hit her in the head to cause the right amount of brain damage to alter her personality, and until we can figure that out, doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which I would have.
I like being an ENFP though.
She's okay with being an
types,
ENFP.
Yes. Out of all the types, I like ENFP the most, and I have found out that I get along with ENFPs too.
There you go. It's nice to be around people that are similar in thought process to us. For example, when you explain extroverted intuition or extroverted feeling or introverted thinking, I look... Oh, good, somebody died. If I recognize it being used in myself and it gives me one of those, oh, that makes sense, I get it now. Well, that's good that you've got it figured out from there. I'm not sure how to answer that question. That's how I, starting out in MBTI, I used myself as as an example to help better understand how the functions manifested in real life. What do you think of the criticism that MBTI is pseudoscience? I think that I hear that phrase so much that most people that use the phrase are strong preference to extroverted thinkers. That's mostly what I think about it. Let's see. I cannot imagine being self-sacrificial for others. Well, it takes a great deal of character to truly sacrifice for other people.
It's really not that hard.
Real sacrifice. No. I'm talking about real sacrifice.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Here's an example. Either you get this job, or let's say if you were offered a job and you take that job, however, you know that some family members are going to suffer because you take that job. Most people, understandably so, will still want to take that job because they need the money. And then they can justify it, they'll rationalize and say, well, if I've got this money, then maybe I can help them financially. They can rationalize it all they want. But to make that sacrifice, to pass up a stable living situation for yourself, and of course that rolls over into the future, to help your family in the here and now, that's a real sacrifice.
But it's not hard to make.
Apparently it's very hard to make because most people don't do it. We're talking about what it means to be difficult now. Now we're trying to figure out what that word even means. Difficulty means, not being able to do it. That's more or less what it boils down to, is the ability to do something. Most people do not have the ability to sacrifice. They just can't do it.
3-4 months ago, I was finally getting the position that I had worked for the past 3 years. And I don't mean just like worked 8 hours a day. No. I meant like I would stay all night in the office, and by the time the people that had found me in the morning, they would come back and I would still be there working. And I left that all behind because some people that I didn't even like were being mistreated, and I spoke up about it. And I lost the position because I didn't believe that they were being treated fairly, although I wasn't being mistreated. And but I did it because it was the right thing to do. And that's it.
The right thing to do. The sacrifice. I tell you, ENFPs are the champions of the people. Been saying it for years.
I wouldn't consider it champions of the people. It's just the right thing to do because
it was just the right thing to do. Yeah. Justify it however you want. Champion of the people.
Oh gosh.
Just saying that ENFPs tend to make very martyr-like decisions throughout their life. With an effective propaganda, people would gladly sacrifice themselves. Well, some people might sacrifice themselves. Usually, that comes. That's more of the nature of introverted censors to be indoctrinated and to have them do those to do things. But isn't half the population introverted feeling? It's probably more than that now. Introverted feeling cares more about authenticity, being real with themselves. I like this, I don't like that. I'm more interested in this, I'm not interested in that. And then, having not oftentimes having issues telling people.
We were waiting for you.
Especially those, those kids in college nowadays. They are far more outspoken, and of course their level of openness seems to have gone down as well. But that's to be expected. Let's see.
Comes the pain.
No, just basic.
Basic. It's become introverted feeling is most certainly taking over as a preference. Extroverted thinking, or not extroverted thinking, extroverted feeling is kind of dying out. Like true levels of tolerance in how other people think or behave, I suppose, or want to live their lives. Extroverted feelers, they just want to make sure that the peace is kept. That's it. And less people are interested in keeping the peace. They're more interested in voicing their personal opinions on people.
Farewell.
Let's see. People making decisions based on what they think is right is what makes life interesting, Miss Co-Host.
For a world of hurt.
Yeah, Miss Co-Host. Is that your official title?
I guess.
You're Miss Co-Host.
Miss co-host.
Who would be Mr. Co-Host?
We're gonna have to find someone.
This is the end.
Yeah. So Bob says, I guess my thinking was, if you're self-sacrificial, people will expect it from you constantly, and I know I can't sustain that probably because of any is not going to want to be obligated. Which,
Good.
yes, but here's the thing.
What's going on?
A story. I used to buy everything for my mom, like absolutely everything. Or maybe for a friend, I will give them things, right? Because I want to give them things. Now, the moment you expect me to give you something, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I will stop.
That makes sense.
I'm not going. If she says, "Oh, I want this," then you're not getting it because you asked me for it. Like, when I give you something, I want to do it. If you ask me for it, then, and it's just a constant ask, and not just, you can ask me, right? But if you expect it from me, then no, that's a big no.
Well, in one instance, you were doing it out of the kindness of your heart, and in the other instance, it was because someone essentially told you, in no specific
Yes.
words, to do that thing. And that, of course, rubs most people the wrong way. So, understandably.
Take this.
Let's see.
This is for my fellow hunter.
How can ENFPs be self-sacrificial when they're an extroverted intuition not want to feel tied down or obligated to others? Well, that
Making people
that
happy
would-
makes us feel happy.
making people happy makes them feel happy. They remember that extroverted intuition also includes the perspectives of other people.
You're the target.
So
For you.
when they're able to literally, they have a preference for trying to get into the feelings of other people. That's just something that they naturally do. And so
I'll put this to good use.
when they know that their actions might hurt the feelings of someone else, they may decide to change course. And many of them do. How can you be an ENTP and subscribe to the alphabet thinking like pansexual? It lets you know that there's not that many ENTPs out there in the world. Most of them, of course, are, like most people there, they live average lives. They do their crappy job and then come home and maybe complain about things or just, try to escape reality in whatever ways. But yeah, you can't be an ENTP and go with the status quo automatically. That would be that would be very non-ENTP. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be a whole lot in the way of ENFP behavior either. So let's see. Hey, brother, you got to have some boundaries. Some people have boundaries, I suppose, and that makes sense. I enjoy pushing boundaries. Like, generally speaking, most questions aren't off limits to me. I don't mind sharing a lot of, most personal information, for example. It doesn't seem to bother me. Let's see. Don't get me started on pansexual versus bisexual. The people just want to identify as whatever they want to be, and it's like, that's super cool and whatnot. I can understand your reasoning for wanting to do that. It doesn't make it true. Just because you want to believe something's the case doesn't mean that it is. So But as for the pansexual or bisexual, as far as I know, bisexual means that you prefer, that you don't have necessarily a preference for either gender when it comes to sexual relations. So, let's see. What else do we got here? As for the pansexual, can someone freshen up my understanding of that definition? I've heard it before. I've heard it for decades, but I'm drawing a blank on what it's supposed to mean exactly.
Honestly, they all just kind of mean the same thing. But
They all just kind of mean the same thing. There's got to be a distinction.
Yeah, no,
somewhere.
but some of them, pansexual is just a generic one. It just means
Is
that you're
it?
attracted romantically or sexually to anybody, no matter the gender.
Is it? Does that also like apply to animals? Like, what if you're all of a sudden attracted to animals? Could that also be a part of
That one
pansexuality?
has a different one. Isn't that like bestiality?
Well, that's
I don't know.
bestiality. Yeah, I get that. But I mean, if pansexual's covering, a bunch of different
I mean,
things, and well, does it apply to that as well?
No, I mean in the human realm, so it doesn't matter what. So you can be a she-male, a transgender, anything. They like it all.
They like it all.
Yeah.
Well, good for them. A lot of variety there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, see, Bob agrees with me. It's the same thing as as bisexual. Thank you, Bob.
So it's the same thing as bisexual.
Yeah.
We've figured that out. Are you bisexual, Urchin? I am not.
Just you wait.
Like, I hesitate on that because I'm like, I can know when a man's attractive, or I've said that certain men are very attractive. Ian Somerhalder, at least
Oh my
back
gosh, yes,
back
he
in his
is.
Vampire Diaries days, like I'd have been like, yeah, I'd hit that, right?
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? Like he's a very attractive man. Obviously, he's got. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, not only does he have the typical dark features, but he also has. Does he have lighter color eyes as well? Does he have like blue
Yes,
eyes
he
or
does.
something?
He
Yeah.
does.
And
He
it's-
does. Oh.
He's got the black hair and the blue eyes, and of course he's
The
got
beautiful smile.
a perfect jawline. Like who's Henry Cavill's probably the same for most people.
Yes.
It's very attractive. Does that make me bisexual? Am I sexually attracted to them? I would say not, but I know when a man's attractive, most certainly. And that's got to come from my personal belief or personal feelings on the matter, right? So I personally believe that Henry Cavill is essentially a god among men, and Ian Somerhalder is also very attractive, most certainly.
Ian Somerhalder was my first daddy, and then Henry Cavill came along, and now he's there too. They're both there.
They're
I
both
can't
there.
think of two men that are better than those two.
There you go.
Do you know who he's married to? Ian
don't.
Somerhalder?
No idea.
Rosalie from Twilight.
Which one was Rosalie?
The one with the one that's always mad, upset.
Well, didn't they change the character out?
No, she's always been the same actress. They changed Victoria, which is a
Rosalie.
redhead girl.
Wait, okay.
She's a blonde
okay.
one.
Oh, so we're talking
Yeah.
about one of Bella's friends from the school?
No, Edward's sister. Edward's sister.
Edward's sister. Which one?
The one that's always upset. He only has two.
Oh, the blonde one?
Yeah, the blonde one.
Oh, yeah, bitch face. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was really bitchy in that whole. It's like, damn. I know that's probably not her doing that, but she earned her the title of bitch face in that movie. Most certainly. Okay, but what if you're attracted to someone who identifies as an animal? Well, I can identify as anything I want, and it doesn't make me that thing, so I guess it wouldn't really matter what I identify as.
That actually has a different name. This is what I'm saying, that they all mean almost the same thing. Like, just keep one name. This is pretty much the same at this point.
Same thing.
Oh.
Let's see, would that make you into bestiality? Well, no, because bestiality is the act of having sex with an animal. There's something that humans regard as animals anyways, because I regard most humans as animals, so I guess that's there. Wait, no, is bestiality just the idea of, is it like cross-species sex?
No,
Is that
no,
what
no,
that
that's-
means?
No, no, it's when you actually when you're actually doing those things with an animal.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be like what we know of to be an animal, essentially a non-human. Like, if you were to have sex with an alien, does that make it bestiality? Like, you had sex with a gray alien that came in through your window. Is that bestiality?
I'm sure they would put another label to that one.
Like in Futurama, if you had sex with a robot, you were a robosexual. Something like that. I don't know. Fix my hair a little bit. Okay. Let's see. So basically, Melissa can be attracted to my Asus RTX 3070. Maybe. Assuming that, she was attracted to whatever it is that it did for her. Sexually attracted. I imagine most people are not, though. Let's see. If we are navigating life consciously, movements to movements, are we selecting functions to act, or are we conscious of dom functions? And you can be conscious of a dominant function. It's just you have to be aware of what it is. So, which can be difficult for some people. Most people don't go through life thinking that, so. We're always consciously making decisions, but in many of those cases we're not using the lead function like actively, where that's just something that we live with. It's what's helping us move. Maybe not even helping us. It's just we don't have a choice. That first function is what gets used persistently throughout life. So I try to navigate life in as logical a way as I can. But I make a great deal of illogical decisions just due to the fact that I want to know what would happen next. Or I want to see what would happen based on, these decisions. Which has not always gone well, as you can imagine. Let's see, I'm not saying it's the truth, but if we were to be in their minds, I don't know. Maybe. Ben, how was your appointment?
Well, I haven't done my test, but my appointment went great. She just told me what to expect in the test and how to answer the questions.
Okay. Yes or no?
Well, no, she was like, if you behave a certain way at work, like for example, if I'm very organized, very NI looking at my work,
Okay.
but that's not how I want to be, and I only do it for work, then I shouldn't be answering that I am organized, because I'm truly not, and I don't really want to do it. I just only do it to live in a society. That's it. So that was pretty much what she was saying.
A lot of those damn MBTI questions, they're missing context.
Yeah. So after I do the written one, we will review my results together, and then she's going to also type me and see if they match up.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting, especially for the money.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it. I was thinking about letting you watch me do the test, but then I was like, I don't know. That might be weird, because maybe I'll answer differently. I don't know. So I was like, maybe I don't think I would, but
you can just tell me the results afterwards.
Yeah. But I'm doing it after this.
Oh. If you have to use your third function a lot, will it lead to you feeling burnt out in a way? Yeah. Absolutely. So like you're never going to get burnt out with your first function because you can't turn it off. So even if you just said to yourself, Jesus, I can't, I'm so sick of all these thoughts all the time, you have to go with medication. And I have known some, of course, ENTPs are known for taking mind-altering substances, duh. But, Ritalin being one that's oftentimes pushed onto ENTPs. you're going to have to take medication because otherwise there's no way you could focus long enough on a particular subject. It doesn't work. Just like, who was that? We had someone tell us that they knew an ENTP lawyer. And I'm like,
I was
now,
typing, yeah.
I'm not saying that ENTPs can't be lawyers. I'm sure they could make great lawyers. One case at a time. And not for, like I told them that, yeah, I can see an ENTP being a lawyer, but let's say they only get like 3 cases a year. So 3 cases a year, yeah, they get to screw around and then do whatever it is they actually want to do. And then they have to spend the next so many weeks hardcore focusing on, their case. Then sure, that could make sense. But if you're talking about like a regular lawyer, like virtually every other lawyer on the planet, they're working like 60-hour weeks every single week of their lives for months. And it's like, no, there's no ENTP. It's not even, we wouldn't even necessarily care about whether or not an ENTP would want to do it. It's the fact that the ENTP is not going to be able to do it. They can't focus long enough to do that. So if it's like, like we watch, House. House, for example, a doctor, right? In a fictional universe, right? A doctor. He gets to take 1 case a week. And he enjoys the puzzles. And even enjoying the puzzle once a week. 1 case a week. Takes a week to solve the case. Sometimes less. And then that's it, though. Not taking any more cases. Just 1 a week.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. I need long breaks.
And of course, he ignores paperwork, doesn't do it. He ignores codes of ethics, responsibilities. He usually delegates them to other people on his team. He doesn't do that stuff. He's screwing around when he's not working on a case. And it's like, you can't be a lawyer and just be screwing around all the time. Like, that's a hard job. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's just it's not something they do. What's another question, Ben? What's next? I'm currently killing a monster, so.
Yeah. So it says, so the conscious function stack should start at the second function and the first one should be in its own section?
Which function should be in its own section?
The first one. So they say the conscious function stack should start at the second function and the first one should be in its own section.
That's an interesting way to look at it, actually. Like, imagine like breaking down MBTI in that way. And you say, well, here's your first function, and this is how you more or less live your entire life, and then the other functions come afterwards to separate them function-wise. I think that's an interesting way to look at it.
It is. I've never thought about it like that, but it makes sense.
I like it.
Way. Yeah.
I like it for a breakdown. I may end up stealing that idea for later.
Let's see. Bob has a question.
Bob always has a question.
This is going to be a meme now with Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, buddy.
What's Bob's
She
question?
says, oh, well, I don't think it's a question now. It says, those substances, shout out to Adderall. Although it tends to make any ENTI worse, I think. It helps me focus, but NE is still driving the car to what I focus on.
Well, it's supposed to help you focus on the things that you need to be focusing on, things like schoolwork or your job and what have you. And of course, it's not going to be 100% effective all the time at doing that, understandably.
Mm-hmm. We missed the question. Somebody asked us about C.S. Joseph, but Urchin doesn't. Have you ever seen C.S. Joseph?
I watched one of his videos for about 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, they were asking why you thought people had issues with C.S. Joseph.
They have issues with C.S. Joseph. I think that C.S. Joseph, I think, tells people that he's an ENTP, and I didn't get that impression from him.
Yeah, no.
So,
I mean, C.S. Joseph believes FI is sympathy and FE is empathy. That's part of his entire.
Yeah. So I mean, that's wrong. That's very wrong. So C.S. Joseph, it's kind of like a Melissa Talks thing. they have their own understanding or their belief in the system, usually cobbled together from various sources, whether it's original pieces of Jung's work or the works of other, YouTubers or other people that do MBTI content. And they mash it together and decide that that's what MBTI is. Extroverted feeling is not empathy. Period. That's not what it is. Empathy is the ability to feel what is feeling what someone else is feeling. You could describe that as something other than extroverted feeling. You would describe it as extroverted intuition at the very least. You would say that, well, this is me preferencing the feelings of someone else. So, I don't. C.S. Joseph, it would be the same as Melissa Talks, or I assume Joyce Mang, or what's his name? Frank James. They have an understanding of the system that's not real or applicable to real life. But that's their theory and that's their understanding of it. So, normal, everyday stuff. Well, it is for me anyway, because for the past 10 years I have been into, MBTI. So.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and join the Discord if you haven't, guys. Just click on Urchin's profile and the link is there. He also does live typings.
I do? What are you talking about?
Oh, about it.
You mean like streamed on live? No, we did that once.
No. Like actual typings with people, like on voice chat.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. And yes, to get typed, it needs to be on voice chat. So. And about an hour of your time.
Okay, so Bob has a question.
Mm-hmm.
So FI is said to have values and morals, and TI is said to have principles and to be concerned with what's fair. Can you explain the difference between morals, values, and principles?
No. Like, you can have a principle on things. For example, I have, before you make a decision, you should think on it a lot. Now, whether or not I care about what's fair, no. If there was a type that was more concerned about some kind of level of objective fairness, it would be someone that has a preference for extroverted feeling. For example, making sure that everyone gets a chance to speak in a social setting. You'll notice me doing that. Like if there's someone that's been trying to get a word in edgewise, and there's a pause in someone's speaking, I'll randomly decide to ask them how they're doing or what it was they were saying. I'm more interested in making sure that everyone has a voice, that says something, gets to talk. Because in too many occasions I have seen where there's someone that's more dominant in the conversation, and they do most of the talking, and then other people just kind of give up trying to talk or be a part of the conversation. And so that would be, it's not necessarily a matter of fairness either. It's just, I want other people to believe that they can speak. But I don't think that introverted thinking cares about fairness. I mean, they can care about an objective level of what might be considered fair, but of course, whether or not something's fair is a matter of opinion. And then you would start talking about things like equality versus equity, things like that. It's don't listen to a lot of the things that you read or hear rather on the subject.
I want to say FI would be more focused on fairness in a way, maybe.
Yeah,
possibly.
if they have their own particular value system on what's fair and what isn't, and that's what they want to express, then
There was one time at school that a teacher left us these pages of problems. It was when I was in college. And they divided the class in three groups. And he was like, okay, I have these 3 pages. Each group is going to do 1 page of problems. So the first page had 4 problems. The second page had 8 problems. The third page had 3 problems. I was in the third group, so I only had 3 problems. And he said, you guys can divide it however you want. You can divide it in pages, or you can divide it in by questions. So each one has a fair amount. obviously the groups that had less questions were like, oh no, we all voted for to have less, and I was the only one that was like, no, 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 no.
No,
We're
no,
not
no, no,
allowed to
no,
do
no, no.
this. You have to be fair because it's not fair to them that they have eight questions, and my team was like, you only have 3. Be quiet. And I was like, I don't care. We're going to divide it. So I was like the Karen.
I was being all Karen for a day. Oh, good for you. It's nice to branch out. What else do we got here? Aren't you always? What you just said, aren't you always? Am I always what? Am I always right? That's correct. Yes. And someone said they were going to sue me. What was that about?
Well, you told them you were stealing the idea of the section, which I thought was amazing because I can't do it.
No, I liked that. I like that idea when you're trying to teach someone about MBTI and you were to like post it or put it on a slide or something where that you have that first function segregated from the rest. And this is how you live your life. This one function. And then the rest of them are supporting that function. I think that's great.
It is.
A great visualization.
This next question, I have my thoughts on it, but I already I think I know how you're going to answer, so it's going to be interesting for me.
Okay. What's the next question?
So Pee-wee says, do you think ISTPs can be underrated in their ability to think as metaphysically as the intuitive thinkers?
Underrated?
Yes.
I don't know how someone would rate that. It's just a matter of preference. ISFPs would think less on subjects like that. Doesn't mean that they don't think about it, ever.
ISTPs.
Oh, ISTPs. Still, is that the main... we're talking... Like, we've had ISTPs who wanted to be INTPs before. Like, we've had that. Like, well, I think about this subject. I'm like, how often exactly? And then, that we talk about, what they do, with their lives. And their lives are always about mostly everything else other than constantly thinking about the abstract. It doesn't mean that you don't think about those things. You absolutely can. If you've got the free time and you found it momentarily interesting, you're going to think about it. Doesn't mean that, that's what you do all the time. I think that's the main difference that people don't understand. When you have a preference for extroverted intuition, meaning first, second position, that's what you do for most of your life. You don't just decide. It's not that, they don't just think about abstract topics for 4 hours a day and then they go on with the rest of their life. No, when it's in a strong position, that's what you're doing for most of your life. That means everything else gets thrown to the wayside because these abstract thoughts and concepts, hypotheticals, theoreticals, those are more important than everything else. Whether it's, people or responsibilities, taking out the trash, doing the dishes. No, that gets thrown by the wayside. You're going to be focusing more on these abstract concepts and ideas, and that's what you're going to spend most of your time thinking about. Doesn't mean that ISTPs can't think about those things, and I have known some that do think about it from time to time. Is that what's consuming their life? Absolutely not. It's not consuming their life.
I don't think they're underrated because I don't believe that they're great at explaining their thought process when it involves a lot of abstract topics. Now, with other things that they do, mostly physical, then sure, they're great at their ideas. But if we're really diving deep into an abstract topics, the ones that I've met have struggled with explaining like their thoughts. Like they make no sense to me. It makes sense to them. It just doesn't make sense to the people around them. Not always, not everybody. Just some of them.
Let's see here. I was talking about when you said Melissa and C.S. Joseph and Ming has their own MBTI. I was saying you're like that too in a lot of ways. All I have done was taken the MBTI information from the MBTI website, the actual information, and then translated it into ways that people can relate to it and understand it. That's it. And I call it practical MBTI, and I suppose that yes, that is my own in quote MBTI. But these other ones, they'll straight up tell you that extroverted feeling means the feelings of other people. And that is no, That's not it. That is not in the writing whatsoever.
That was one of the examples that the girl that I met from the actual official MBTI website today told me. She was like, when you see something like that, it's very incorrect. So that's why we don't go based off others' websites. So a lot of the things that she was describing on functions were what you have previously said, Urchin.
Which is impressive because I've never taken any of their classes. What I did was I took their base core information, took it out into the real world, and then was able to translate it. And that's what I do. That's it. These are not, some weird offshoots where introverted intuition means that you can see the future like what some other people do. I don't do that. I read somewhere that INTJs do have messy rooms. No. Houses because of inferior extroverted sensing and not paying much attention to their external environment. No. That's there's a couple reasons for that. I think the main reason though is that when you are super focused on you and your goals and your success in life, and then when you have the downtime, they don't primary introverted intuitives especially when they're young, they don't, like younger, when I mean like, over the age of 18, probably, anywhere from 18 to 30, for example, they're working on themselves. And part of working on yourself is making sure that you don't have any obstacles or problems in your life. Having like my brother, INTJ, when he says he has a messy, like he'll tell me, oh yeah, my desk is a mess and I need to clean it today. But like, okay, well, how bad is it? He's got like, 6 4 Loco cans sitting on his desk. And everything else is in its proper place, or just about. Maybe he's got like a towel hanging off the side of his desk or something. And he'll be like, yeah, I need to clean up my desk today. That's what he thinks messy is. Just looking at my desk right now, it's a maze. It's this wild culminate. I have a junk box sitting over there with a bunch of random crap in it. Some of it's trash. Some of it is things that I actually need to hold on to. And for some reason, a PlayStation controller. That's just one thing. It's filled with crap on my desk. I've got a plate here. I've got empty water bottles. I've got my vape stuff. I've got I've got ibuprofen just sitting here next to a bottle of NyQuil, fiber gummies, a random rag. Like, my desk is actually a mess. It's actually a mess. Completely. It's a complete mess. And back when I smoked, ashtrays. Trays. Multiples. All right? Because one would get full and I couldn't be bothered to either dump it out or get a new one. And so it kind of gets scooted off to the side to make way for another ashtray, which usually my ashtrays were whatever happened to be around. Usually like a bottle of water, with a little bit of water at the bottom. And like that was an ashtray. That's what a messy desk is. So to an INTJ or an INFJ, a messy area is way different from what I would describe as a messy area.
See, I relate to that. My space is a mess, for sure.
You do what now?
My space is also a mess, so I can relate.
There you go. So is introverted intuition thinking about your own future and seeing how to get from point A to point B? Typically, yes. That's people that have a lead preference for introverted intuition, especially, their whole life is about, is this going to help me succeed? What do I need to be doing to succeed right now? They can't turn it off. That's their life. So that's how they run things. That's why introverted intuitives, they usually do well in school. They have a drive, they have a focus, they have this ambition to keep moving forward and to not let anything slow them down. They don't just get slowed down. There was a while, some months back, there was a man, I think he was in his late 20s, and he was telling me about how, he said that he was an INFJ, and I'm like, really? So you're an INFJ? So that's cool. You're 28. What career are you in right now? And he, of course, told me, well, he's not in a career. I'm like, okay, so what's your job? Oh, I'm currently unemployed. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that you have a lead preference for this introverted intuition, meaning that your mind at all times is focusing on you and your success, what you're going to do, your plans, your goals, your ambitions, and you're jobless, no career, any college. He's like, no, I went to college for a semester and then I quit. You're screwing over your own future here at every step. And it turned out he was living in his car. I think he said he was in his car for the past like 2 days. And I'm like, so it's you're in your car, no career, no job. Thankfully you have a car, but you're on your cell phone talking to me about really anything, but we were, it was mostly about MBTI. You're not focusing on your future. You clearly do not have a strong lead preference for your future, your goals and your ambitions and your plans. It's not there. So you cannot be an INFJ and also be doing the things that you're doing right now, because it would require that you have a lead preference for introverted intuition, which you are clearly not expressing at this moment. But I think that's where a lot of people get confused. We're not talking about maybe necessarily what they believe the function is, but we're talking they're confused about how often you need to be using it to have what would be considered a strong preference for it. Let's see. How does messy room relate to inferior introverted sensing, not following a routine of cleaning or a tradition of cleaning? Right. So if you grow, so for example, most introverted sensors that you come across, they will have a much more put together and organized room. And that's because their parents told them to have a much more organized living space. Leaving trash is bad. And of course it looks bad to people that might come over. It can breed bacterias, can make you sick. You could attract viruses or keep viruses in your room for long periods of time because you had like food laying around. And so they're told these things, therefore they follow that routine. Now, just to make the point that it's about how you were brought up, I know of an ISTJ, female, who was a daycare kid, and her parents were more or less just gone all the time. Like, just, they were working all the time. So she had to essentially raise herself, and her parents didn't give her any structure or discipline. So she would stay in her room, and her room was a massive sty. She had to teach herself how to live because she didn't have her parents around to program what good living was or what was appropriate living for whatever their standards were. So introverted sensing is about programming. And so if you have a lead, especially a lead preference for introverted sensing, and you don't have someone to teach you or to program these things into you, you're just going to come up with your own solutions for your problems. And of course, they're not always going to be great. For example, a messy room, or in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was an ISTJ, by the way. He didn't have parents either, so he found an interest in things that were dead. And you saw how that evolved over time. Let's see here. Do you think ENTPs generally could be awkward in social situations? Look, it's all about practice. I was not this charming master of charisma my entire life. I was not that. It takes practice. The more you preference extroverted feeling, the easier it is for people to get to know you and for you to manipulate other people, whether for good or bad. It takes practice. Now, in my particular case, I had a very specific upbringing, and I was not allowed to more or less go outside. I was not allowed. I was not allowed to engage with people because I wasn't doing well in school. So that crippled me for a great number of years. But after I was removed from that place and I went to live somewhere else around the age of 15, I started picking up on it. I got a lot better. I was able to go hang out with friends. I was able to do things, and voila. Now I'm more, I'm far more comfortable talking to people than some others. But yeah, It's a matter of experience. The more you preference it, the faster you'll get good at, those things. So does extroverted thinking help your introverted intuition by saying this is how to succeed by doing this, this, and this? TE is taking objective facts and applying it to how they can succeed. Well, yes, but it typically comes out as a desire to have more money, authority, possibly in some situations, control, power. It depends on the person, but yes. So an INTJ says, if I'm going to be successful, people tell me that I need to have a college degree, and I need to do very well in school, and I need to be focused and working. So that's what they do. And of course, they have this idea, most INTJs have the idea that people are willing to throw them under the bus if it helps them succeed. Now, granted, that's more projection on their part because they would most of the time do the same thing to someone else. But they tend to not care if their decisions will benefit them at the cost of someone else. Yes. Let's see. Bob. That sticker reminded me of you, Bob. It's a fox, right?
Yeah, but it's like, she's like raising her hand to ask a question,
Oh, okay.
She's so excited.
I
Look
thought
at
you
those
were hitting
eyes.
on her. You were telling her she was a fox. And I was like, well,
No,
good for you.
no. I don't know if that's a fox or a cat. I don't know what that is, but it reminded me of like the gesture. That was cute.
Let's see. All right. But see, my parents were strict as hell, always making me clean. That's like how I earned my keep to them, LOL, yet I have inferior introverted sensing. Well, if I don't know what you mean by strict as hell. So, for example, my mother would hit me till I pissed myself if there were crumbs on the kitchen floor. Now, to me, that's strict as hell. Did your parents hit you a lot for acting out of line? Now, see, I could have worked with that kind of environment. Okay, you're going to do all these wonderful things for me, and the only thing you ask for in return is that I eventually clean my room. That's fair. That's perfectly fair. You're going to let me, play an instrument, or you're going to let me go, see my friends, or you're going to help me buy a car, and all I need to do is clean my room once in a while. That seems like a pretty fair trade to me. But so when you say that your parents were strict as hell, I assume that your level of strict is different from what I understand to be strict. But if it logically seems like a fair deal, like if someone said, hey, I'll give you $500 a month to keep your room clean the entire time, every month, I'd be like, no problem. I can do that. I'll just clean it at the end of every day and then get $500. It seems perfectly fair and reasonable.
That makes sense to me. Like, if you're getting me money to clean my room, I might do it. Or I might just say, well, here's the thing. Why don't you clean it and then you save yourself those $500? That seems more logical to me.
It could be.
I don't have to do the work.
So it's yeah, if it benefits you more to just clean your room and then you can go about your business, then yeah, it seems perfectly reasonable. Does that mean that you're always going to be doing that? Well, no, you're not going to keep cleaning as someone with a lead preference for extroverted intuition unless you're given a serious enough reason to keep cleaning your room. Then you're not going to give a shit. You will let that linger for as long as necessary.
Yeah, my mom gave up already on me. So.
And her mom gave up on her. So
yeah.
My mom
she
used to tell
came
me
this week. Your mom used to tell you what.
Why anybody liked me or why I had any friends, and I think maybe that's what led me to be socially awkward. But I don't know. Yeah, my mother also did similar things. My mom would just yell at me and put me down like if I cleaned but left a fork in the sink. Yeah, that's, words are one thing. And I would think, why is she overreacting to this? Yeah, I was staying with my mother. I think it was like 6 years ago now, and I would cook for her. Like that wasn't it wasn't a big deal. I was working at some place in Austin, Texas. It was the Xerox industrial Xerox building, and so I would cook, and she yells at me from her, across the house. She had some giant house where she lived. She lived by herself, and she said that I needed to come in there because, and in a very disapproving voice. And I go into the kitchen. And I go, "What's wrong? Who's dying that you're this upset?" She pointed to me a single bead of grease that had accumulated on the above the stove, and that's what she was freaking out about.
Sounds like my mom.
I was like, are we going to be okay? Because of the single bead of grease that had accumulated over like several days. But some people just enjoy power. Some people just enjoy telling other people what to do. And that's how it is.
Hey, my mom would have. That's a tame reaction. My mom grabs anything she can that's dirty, throws it in, and says, "If you're gonna leave it this dirty, then just keep it more dirty." Then she'll throw the trash probably on the floor, and then she'll go ballistic and start yelling, and then start throwing more things.
Now, when I was significantly younger and much smaller than my mother, that's how she would behave. And then, of course, she would also hit me on top of that. But when I got old enough, that no longer became an option because now she was worried that I might actually bite back. And so you can't, it's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster thing. You eventually being harmed by the monster you created.
See, mine doesn't care. She knows I could beat her, and she still does not care because she knows I won't. I have to be a good little Hispanic kid and not say anything back.
Let's see. My mom would attempt suicide if my dad did something like, I can't read.
And go out of town for work.
I don't think your mother would attempt suicide if he had to go out for a single day for work. I mean, that does seem like a bit of an overreaction for sure. But yes, that does seem like a very introverted feeling response to that. Let's see.
Look at us bonding over moms.
Yes, bonding over moms.
MBTI question, guys. What else do you guys have?
Yeah, that would be a strong introverted feeling response to commit suicide because, granted, I wouldn't expect that out of anything other than like an INFP, though.
Wait, you wouldn't expect that out of an ISFP?
To attempt to commit suicide because their partner was out of town for work? No, especially if that partner's bringing in the bacon.
Huh. See, this is why my mom's type always confuses me. I still don't know that woman's side. Maybe she's an INFP because she tried to commit suicide so many times and blame it on me. She'll be like, I'm going to kill myself, but it's going to be your fault because you did this. And I was like, okay. Like, what do you want me to do?
Do what you want. No balls.
Yeah.
But, of course, I just want to make a public service announcement. If you are feeling like you have suicidal thoughts, then you should seek help because no one wants to see you kill yourself. And I bring that up because that's definitely one of the monetization questions. Like, are you talking about suicide or convincing other people to kill themselves? It's like, we don't do that here. I want to stay monetized, people.
See, I disagree on that.
What's the next question? What are we disagreeing on? Tell me.
Pee-wee says, I think TI is a function based on the strict meaning of words, which is why trying to appeal to FI feelings is so difficult.
Oh, wait, so introverted thinking is about appealing to what?
I think TI is a function based on the strict meaning of words, which is why trying to appeal to FI's feelings is so difficult.
Strict meaning of words. I don't know if that's what it focuses on or is based on.
Yeah, that's what I was disagreeing on, because I have found in my
It's based
limited
on a
knowledge.
personal understanding of something. Trying to understand it. Let's see, but no,
Next
I wouldn't
one.
say that introverted thinking is based on the strict meaning of words. Logic can be based on the strict meaning of words, but of course, then we start talking about semantics, which of course is more my playground, about what the actual meaning of a word is. That's more my thing.
Thanks.
What do we get going about?
So Bob says, I thought INFPs were the over-dramatic emotional ones. Sleepy and Ben said it was the ISFPs, not the INFPs. And that's it. So I don't remember specifically
ISFPs
saying
can
that.
get depressed, as do ISTPs for that, but for very specific reasons that they get depressed. But they don't, it's not because of someone else, causing them to kill themselves. It's because, like an ISFP will take stock of their current living situation and then be like, wow, this is making me sad. It's not where I wanted to be in life. I expected to have this, this, and this, and I don't. And I don't see that there's a way to acquire those things. And now I'm super sad. And now I'm thinking that the only way out is, by my own hand. And I thought INFPs were the overdramatic emotional ones, and Sleepy Ven said it was the ISFPs, not the INFPs. Well, they can be overly dramatic. We've had at least one ISFP that I can think of in the Discord who was overly dramatic about everything, seemingly. But I think that she was suffering from some mental illnesses, and probably had something to do with whatever medication she was on. But they can be overly dramatic, but INFPs typically take dramaticism to another level because they spend time thinking about the possibilities therein. And so there's a great many more things to consider for them when it comes to emotional displays. What monster was I fighting?
Yeah, so the ISFPs,
Nice.
I remember saying, lacks the perspective of others. For example, an INFP is going to be able to understand an emotional situation better than an ISFP.
So, like an INFP, I can understand wanting to have a freak out because their partner is going to be, gone for a period of time, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, they might cheat on me. They might find somebody else. Have I been too emotional lately? Have I been considering their needs enough?" And they start wondering about those things, and then they freak out, and then they might pull a Romeo and Juliet moment. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Just in time.
And the thing is that that's something that an INFP would do regularly. And so they can seem a little more upset when their partner's gone for an extended period of time. Because they're always wondering about things like that.
Poor things. Next question.
Next question. What is it?
Oh, this one says, Urchin and Ben, how did you guys become close friends? See?
Well, I was playing a game of Russian roulette in a bar and in Ontario, and Ben just happened to be vacationing there at that time. And just as I was about to win, she showed up and said that this is bad and wrong, and that you were using blanks. So... And then I got caught, and then I got taken to the hospital because the people beat me up, and then she
I tried to help, but I made it worse.
made it worse somehow, and then she bought me a plane ticket back to Nevada, and that's how we became close friends.
Yep.
That was a
Do
pretty
you
good
guys
story,
live
right?
by each other? That was great. I loved it. We don't live by each other. He lives in Nevada right now, so he's 11 hours away from me. I'm in Arizona.
I'm bringing the heat.
Okay, so Pee-wee says, this is a bit philosophical, but do you think determinism is related to the idea of cognitive functions?
Could be. Well, define determinism.
That's his go-to question, guys. So if you come here with a word, make sure you define what you believe it is.
You in Las Vegas close to the hose, urchin? You'd have to define close. And I would say, though, no. Well, I mean, certainly not Las Vegas. Las Vegas was it like 7 hours from here?
I think I'm closer to Vegas than
Yeah,
he is. I'm 4 hours
you're
away.
closer than I am.
Yeah.
I'd have to travel Nevada lengthwise to get to it, and that would take some time.
Yeah, he's up there in where there's nothing.
Yeah,
Up in
I'm
the
like
mountains.
2 hours away from Sacramento, so I'm much further north. As for the hose, though, yeah, if you live in small town, middle of nowhere areas, you will find them hose.
Guys, don't forget to like the video if you just joined, and also subscribe to the channel and join Discord. And if you would like to be typed by Mr. Urchin, you can always submit an application.
Yep, you can always submit an application. Most certainly.
Let's go for a ride.
I like that they pass out the prostitute advertisement
Yeah.
cards on the sidewalks. Yeah, we have a place nearby called the Bunny Ranch.
Have a taste of this.
It's still in business as far as I know. The first time I saw it, there was a whole bunch of government vehicles outside in the parking lot. It
Targeting you.
was like real discreet.
Here it comes.
Ben is from the Dominican Republic.
I am from the Dominican Republic. That is correct. I grew up
that's
in
what she
many
tells me,
different
so.
places. Do you need to see my passport?
Maybe. I would certainly,
okay.
give evidence to you being from the DR.
I mean, you've seen me. Do I not look Dominican?
I saw you one time, like 4 months ago, and it was
Yeah.
dark, so I couldn't tell
It
you.
was dark. Okay, well, I'll show you later tonight.
Okay then.
Yeah, I am Dominican. What did I think you were from Russia? Oh, because I have a Russian name and I have Russian friends and people I like are Russian. I don't speak Russian, but I'm hoping that I can learn within the next 2 years. I haven't done anything to start. It's just, of course, an idea. We'll see
She
how
can
that
barely
goes.
speak English, let alone Russian.
Shut up. I took some Mandarin though. I forgot most of it at this point because I haven't practiced, but I can understand it a little bit. Sons, no sons. I am the Virgin Mary. Okay.
She's the Virgin Mary.
2.0. No, I got no kids.
No, she hates children.
You can't say that because People take it the wrong way.
They would take it the wrong way. That's correct.
Okay, Pee Wee responded and said, I think determinism is not being able to make decisions free from your preset mode of being.
You can't make decisions based, or you can't make any decisions based on something that wasn't a part of your preset existence or the way that you live your life. Why not?
And then the first question he asked was, this is a bit philosophical, but do you think determinism is related to the idea of cognitive functions?
I understand where there's some overlap based on the description that you gave me, the definition. So, but in MBTI, you can, of course, decide to make decisions that you would find to be, not optimal, most certainly, and you could do it for nothing. It wouldn't be anything serious, of course, like trying to tell an INTJ to throw away their career to go do literally something else, like let's say to be, to write books. And they'd be like, absolutely not. Like they could do that, they won't. But it would be too difficult for them to just throw away everything they invested in.
Yes, Bob, for real. An urchin wants 3 kids.
What? Yeah, I'll have 3 kids. Is someone going to be taking care of them?
Yeah, me, I'll take care of them.
There you go. I was like, yeah, have as many kids as you want with me, as long as there's like multiple nannies and maids to take care of everything. Absolutely, go for it.
You don't want to give your beautiful ideas to a child, like you could educate? No?
That does sound nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, I many urchins with like these logical, charismatic beings just running around.
I'm cool with having, thousands of kids, so long as someone else is taking care of them. That's for the most part. And then when they are old enough to talk and do things, it's super fun. Can do that.
Pee Wee says, so no then?
I think determinism is not being able to make decisions free from your preset mode of being. I don't believe that you can't decide to make a different decision that's opposite to what you would normally do. I understand where the overlap is. Like, so you can't turn off those, that first function, right? And so you're always going to be trying to make decisions based off of that first function. So I understand the idea, the overlap between that and this idea of determinism. But people can choose to do whatever they want. Now, it might take someone helping them to show them what other options there might be, and then they could still decide to do it. They may not want to do it, but they should have the opportunity to do so. So I would say that probably not. I don't know if I subscribe to the idea that you can't just make decisions. I mean, if we're talking about like what decisions, like let's say decisions that involve like the 7th dimension, and you're a human that lives in the 3rd dimension, can you make decisions based off of, the kinds of issues or problems that would happen in the 7th dimension? I would assume not. But you should be able to. But maybe that's just me. Maybe most people have to abide by the law of determinism. And then some people don't. Possibly, maybe. It's a thought.
So Bob says, question. So you can develop other functions not in your top 4, right? Like develop better?
You can develop them, most certainly. Whether or not you're going to preference them over other functions, that's another question entirely. But I think the simplest one is I tell people to try and work on their extroverted feeling. Keep your opinions to yourself. Listen to what other people have to say. Develop it. You can learn a great number of things by simply listening to someone. agree with them, focus, be intent on whatever it is that they're trying to bore you to death with, and just listen. And if you do that, you can develop it. Now, is that going to be your go-to function? No. You're still going to have a preference for other functions. And of course, you're not going to be using necessarily every function at all times of the day. Matter of fact, most people don't. Can you preference other functions more than the top 3 or 4 later in life? No. You'll still be you. As a matter of fact, you'll probably end up like doubling down on whatever your functions are as you get older, depending on your life experiences.
I think this might come from we had a conversation where I had said that someone that had SI in the 6th position might know how to use it better, or like just be better at it than someone with SI in the 4th position, just because it would be in their disdain. Yeah. Like they don't want to use it, so.
Mm-hmm. So you will naturally, you have a preference for these 3 functions. So if you preference them, that means that you use them more often than you use the other functions. So you will gain more experience, thereby developing them more. You'll learn to use them more effectively. And as long as it's working for you, then you're not going to really have much of a reason to change things up. Like, I try to imagine what it would be like if all of a sudden I started just expressing my personal opinion about things, like regularly. Like, oh, I like this.
Wish.
Or I think this is great. Or that makes me happy. Just doing those things.
Mm-hmm. I've asked you to do that. Like, I wish you did that.
But I don't enjoy how other people would perceive me after that. I don't want people to have certain bits of information.
Mm-hmm.
So the more information I give people, the less power I have. So don't want to do that.
Or you can trust some people.
Can trust
with
people.
That. Yeah, you can. Sometimes. Not always.
Can you explain functions 5 through 8 more like you use them unconsciously? Okay. So I found that in my 10 years of research that people tend to develop those other functions differently based on their life experience. That's what I have noticed. So, for example, introverted intuition should theoretically be in the 5th position of my cognitive function tower, as I like to call it. I don't like saying stack. So, what's my preference for my personal plans, goals, ambitions? I can imagine them. I sometimes even daydream about it. Is it my whole day? Absolutely not. But I can imagine them. Now, how often do I take steps towards making that a reality? Basically not at all. Virtually not. The closest I've gotten is this YouTube channel. To have a job that pays the bills, and I can do it from anywhere. I can move to wherever I want, so long as it has electricity and an internet connection, I can do it. Right? How long did that take for me to get on, to actually do that? Years. Many, many years. Yes, stack and tower does mean the same thing. I just prefer to call it the tower. Because no one else calls it the tower, therefore I call it the tower. Now, I also have an extreme distaste for extroverted thinking. I have an extreme distaste for it. Completely. Now, I think that has a lot to do with me growing up with a great number of extroverted thinkers who will just believe something because it was in the book, because they read it somewhere on Google, or because that's what their teachers told them was true. Now, I understand why they did that. But when I ask them, how do you know it's true? the logic falls short. Well, it's because the teacher said, or it's because that's what everyone else says is true. Therefore, it must be true. So I have a distaste for it. So if someone tells me that this is how something is, I'll question it, especially if it doesn't make any sense or it doesn't make immediate sense to me. I question it. Now, that's me. That was my personal experience growing up. So therefore, I developed this distaste for that function. Maybe other people grew up in more balanced environments and they don't have as much of a problem with extroverted thinking. Possibly. But point is that over the 10 years, I have seen, in quote, shadow functions, the 5 through 8 functions, I have seen them develop at different rates for different people. Another criticism is that MBTI puts people in a box. Yeah, I'm not certain what they mean by put people in a box, like you're supposed to act this way. There's some stereotypes that are true. Many of them are not, that I have read. It doesn't, I literally tell people that you have all 8 functions and you use all 8 functions every day. We're just trying to figure out which functions you preference more than the others. That's what we're trying to figure out. That, as far as I can tell, that doesn't put people in a box. So, other people, of course, the other 90% of the MBTI community has no idea of how the system works at all. They didn't take the base information and then go out there into the real world and then try to understand how it works and do their own personal tests and do their own research and conduct their own interviews with, thousands of people. They didn't do that. They just read these stereotypes, they read these descriptions and decide that that's how it is. And therefore other people read that and say, oh, that looks like a box. I don't want to be placed in a box. I think boxes are, that they don't work for me. And so a lot of misinformation confuses people. I tend to make plans in a way that doesn't box me in. Well, yeah, commitment sucks. I don't like when people tell me how things are without being able to explain why. Like maybe it is true, but I want to know why or how. I have another question. Oh, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer questions. At least for another hour.
I was about to say, aren't we? I thought we were past the 2 hours for the Thursdays. That's Friday.
Isn't it Friday?
Yeah, we're doing another one tomorrow, or no?
We should.
Yeah,
especially if it's early
the
enough in the
4-hour
day.
one. Yeah.
Or we can, what do you want to do?
I say we do too.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I actually have a appointment at 2 p.m. tomorrow, so I can start it, but I won't be able to finish.
How long is the appointment?
An hour. I have an hour. I'm interviewing some people because I'm planning their wedding. I'm going to be the officiant, so I have to ask them a couple of questions. It takes me about an hour to ask them all the questions, and then I'll be back. Yeah.
I'll figure something out.
So, yeah,
do you think first and second slot introverted thinking users could be, in quote, dumb? Dumb meaning taking a while to understand structures in real life or what people say. Well, yeah. I mean, so an example is Peter Griffin. Does everyone knows who Peter Griffin is? What is essentially the main character of Family Guy. So he's been typed as an ENTP. Now I can understand why. When he explains his logic on the regular, and that logic doesn't work. Obviously, his ideas are more important than the logic comes afterwards, and even then the logic is very spotty at best. But that's how he talks to people. That would be an example.
Sounds like an ISTP.
Well, not with all of the crazy ideas all the time.
Mm.
But introverted thinking is your personal understanding of something. And whether or not you choose to, and then of course expressing it to other people, being able to express it to other people and articulate why you believe what it is you believe, thinking in a very as logical a manner as possible. So it is theoretically possible for someone to be perceived as, in quote, dumb because they're following their line of logic on something. Now, usually when I hear someone call someone else dumb, it's because, and this has been most of my experience in life, and I understand why, but they'll say someone's dumb because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, what other people believe they're supposed to be doing. That's, oh, that's dumb that you're doing it that way. You should just be doing it this way, the same way that it's been done for hundreds of years. You should just be doing that. And so they call you dumb. So it has more of a colloquial meaning to me than anything else. So you can perceive someone as dumb because they're doing something that you disagree with or that you think is illogical. But it doesn't happen often. I've known some ISTPs that weren't the sharpest tool in the shed, most certainly, but they're usually clever in other ways. So, matter of perspective.
Yeah, ISTPs were the one that came to mind when she said that. I was like, oh, these ISTPs. INFJs were the other one that came to mind when she said that. I mean, Pee-wee. I don't know if Pee-wee's here, him. He or she.
All right.
But yeah, ISTPs and INFJs are the ones that I've been like, oh, I have no idea what you're trying to say, and I typically can't understand. And you guys just make no sense at all. And you're stuck there, no matter how much you're trying to fix that. And you can't think of like you cannot you can't get them to think about any other perspective. And it's like, why? So it gets irritating.
It can be difficult. So, for example, let's say everyone says this TV show is the best. I tend to automatically think this show must suck because I assume most people give into groupthink and don't think why they like it. Yeah. Well, that would be that most likely. I mean, you can rationalize it that way, but I imagine due to your life experience, it's actually because introverted sensing is in the last position. So you would naturally gravitate towards whatever underdog position or opinion is, just to do it. Now, you can rationalize and say, yeah, I found that most people are stupid, therefore I'm probably not going to like this. Now, I have noticed that in my life, that has trended me to have a bias against mainstream popular things. I have noticed.
Oh, that makes sense now, because this is why I probably never read like the popular books. Like when people were like all over Harry Potter, I was like, nope, I'll read the Keys to the Kingdom. When people were all over, what's it called, the Hunger Games, I was like, oh, I'm going for Divergent. Like I always chose the other one because I didn't think they were going to be as good as people make it out to seem. I just recently watched the Harry Potter movies too.
I need to rewatch them. They're funny.
Yeah, we have a movie Monday night coming for those.
My cousin tells me.
Guys.
By the way.
I was just gonna say movie Mondays. We're watching Breaking Dawn. That was it. That's the announcement. Your cousin tells you.
My cousin tells me that in the first movie, Harry Potter didn't cast a single spell. In the first movie. No idea if that's true. But
I don't know. I mean, certainly he couldn't cast anything. He probably would have been like Ron and got hurt.
Well. Is that why I hate Taylor Swift, but don't have a reason for why? It's possible. That's what I tend to do if I'm wondering whether or not I logically like or dislike something. I try to take it to the root, as much to the root as possible. But and if I can't come up with a rationalization for why, then I've hit bedrock, and now I'm just going off of my personal feelings on the subject. Let's see. When I think I was like 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there, I was working at the Walmart. one of the coworkers randomly came up to me and said, "What do you think about Taylor Swift's new album?" And I said, "Who's Taylor Swift?"
I can see that.
Like, Taylor Swift, you don't know who Taylor Swift is? I'm like, I have no idea who Taylor Swift is. And they're like, well, damn, well, what did you think about Adele? And I'm like, who's Adele? What are you talking about? Is she a rapper? I don't know. Me, I'm still listening to, Linkin Park albums that came out when I was 13.
Mm-hmm. See, Taylor Swift, like her song, like a very popular song of hers, became very famous when I was like 14. I remember that I would always sing it before, like while we were driving to high school.
Yeah, like my playlist
And she was
has
country.
AC/DC's on it. Linkin
That's
Park.
good.
I'm sure some other songs. 3 Days Grace.
Katy Perry.
I have Katy Perry's E.T. on my
Yeah,
playlist. I like that song.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make me a chick? Why not?
No, that's not just the I assuming people are stupid right away, because I assume everybody is stupid.
I think me listening to older songs, well, I didn't grow up with like AC/DC, for example. Yeah, if you're listening to the same songs just because they're the same songs, then that's one thing. If you listen to the same song because it resonates with you on a personal level, well, that's introverted feeling. But I'm always adding new stuff to my playlist all the time. So I'm always listening to new things. Trying out new things anyway. And no, it's not always the same genre. Like, I don't have a favorite album, for example. A lot of people ask me that. What's your favorite album of, what band or singer or whatever artist? I said, I don't usually like an entire album. But I'm not listening to those songs just because they are my favorite songs. Therefore, I need to go back and listen to them. I'm listening to them because I have a personal connection with the songs. I think that all types start as introverted feeling types. But some changes into introverted thinking, like how humans start as females, but some changes to males. Right. Like we were saying before, everyone has all 8 functions. It's a matter of how often you preference them, or what's your major preference in terms of those 8 cognitive functions. So I wouldn't say that everyone starts out as an introverted feeler. You are essentially born as your type. Much like how IQ is 80% genetics. 80% of your IQ is supposed to be genetic. So you can't really change that. You're going to naturally gravitate towards wanting to understand the logic of something, or you're going to gravitate towards, wondering how you feel about something. You'll gravitate towards getting answers from people versus trying to find your own answers. Whether you're paying attention to what's going on around you, or you're paying attention to how things could be. Could you explain inferior extroverted thinking? I have explained that more than once on a few of my videos, in that it doesn't come up. There's 2 types that have a inferior preference for extroverted thinking. That's ISFPs and INFPs. I think you explained it before, but I either didn't listen or I already forgot. Could be both.
I thought we talked about it already in this same stream, but yes.
I believe we've talked about, I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Extroverted thinking in the last position means that you are aware of what other people think logically is true. You can be aware of it, but it's not what you go to. You would rather go with your personal instincts on something, whether it being right or wrong. you would prefer that.
Yeah, no, I had to go look it up because I was sure she had asked. And yes, Bobby, you had asked about inferiority and inferiority. See?
Ta-da! There really isn't a lot to say about it. I have talked to numerous INFPs and ISFPs throughout my life, whether it was before or after I learned about MBTI. And it goes the same way. They don't care if other people necessarily believe that something is, theoretically correct. They care more about how they feel about it. That's what they care about. That's how it is for them. And then when it comes to introverted thinking, that being the absolute last function, that would be the 8th position function. They definitely they do not trust themselves to come up with their own logical solutions to things. They'll go to Google, they'll go ask friends, they'll ask family members, they'll do anything other than trust themselves to come up with a solution for something. They have a lot of doubt in that arena, which makes sense because introverted thinking is in the very last position. It's something that they barely understand exists. So I have more questions. Hold on, I forgot. Extroverted intuition ruining my life. It certainly can. Just make sure you keep up on your personal health. That's what I recommend.
There's a question for you, Urchin.
Okay. What's the question?
Read Pee-wee.
What?
Y'all like hentai?
Yeah, I've watched
ask
it.
this question every stream.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me any. Like I don't go out to search for it. I'm not like it's fine to watch, most certainly. It's just when I'm in the mood to watch that kind of thing, I usually gravitate towards something else, not strictly hentai. But I like harem animes where they tease some things, maybe a good deal of fan service, super fun, but nothing really happens. Much to Ven's frustration watching High School DxD. She's like, I know he's not getting laid.
Yeah. So I'm more of like, I want the hentai. He's like, he likes the promise of something that never happens. And
But
I'm
it
like,
never
just show me.
happens. There's something about it that makes me giggle.
Yeah. And I'm annoyed. I just want to see it.
Yeah,
Like you're hinting at it.
She gets blue balls over it. So.
I do.
So, yeah, like harem animes though, for sure. Big fan.
Dun, 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 dun.
My first harem anime was Love Hina. That was my first one. I was staying at an apartment in Modesto, California, I think, when I watched it. It was nice. A very wholesome harem anime. If such a thing would exist. I know you have a playlist, Urchin. I do have a playlist. It's on my YouTube. But it's for music.
Mhm.
So.
We have actually listened to his playlist. We did karaoke night once, and he was singing from that playlist.
I sang a couple songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great singing voice, guys. You need to listen to it at some point.
That's a lie.
It's not true.
Outwardly
I thought
lying.
it was Kissed by an Angel.
Kissed by an angel. Oh. Do you think ISTPs would be annoyed by high extroverted thinking users as well? I don't know if they would be annoyed per se, but they usually have fun arguing against extroverted thinking logic. What's the next question?
What's the type of anime about sex stuff being outlawed in society?
Anime about sex stuff being out. I remember an anime that was like that, and there was some girl who's running around doing lewd things, kind of, sort of, just to mess with the police. Is that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that anime, but obviously that's a, embedded moral values society, so that's obviously going to come from introverted sensing. Traditional ways of looking at things.
Bob says, are T users the type to say, the book says this, therefore we do this, without trying to understand why, or is that SI?
Well, it depends on the context. So if they tell you something like, well, all you have to do to be right is to read this book, because the book has all the right answers in it. It's like, well, that's most likely extroverted thinking. However, if someone is telling you, we have always read these books, and everything's okay, so therefore, you should keep reading from what's in the, you should keep learning from the book, well, then, you're going towards introverted sensing. It's about, introverted sensing's about, memory, so how you grew up and the traditions therein.
Well, if it's engineering, it would make sense to use more T than TI.
Yeah, if you're just going off of a book to give you all the answers and you're not really taking the time out to figure out whether or not it's correct, and you just believe that it's correct, then it's like, well, that's obviously extroverted thinking. Now, if you read a book and the book tells you that if you want this solution, you have to do this, this, and this, and you're like, are you sure about that? Let me go find out if that's actually true, and then you take the time out to to see if it actually works. Now you've done some introverted thinking there, because now you personally understood why it was working. But
which is why it was so confusing for the ENFPs, by the way, Richard.
So confusing.
Yes, like, for example, when people say, well, you guys, like, TI is all about testing it out. I don't think there were many things in my life that I didn't really, that I actually paid or cared about, that I didn't test them before saying, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. Like, I didn't just read a book and was like, yeah, this is what we're going with. Let's go.
Let's go.
I shall put this to good use.
Time to get
Well, like I said, we use all the functions every day. It just depends on how your days are. But you will have but we all have a preference for doing things a specific way. Let's see. Do you think any of the functions listed on the website are described incorrectly? On the Myers-Briggs type indicator website? I kind of doubt it. I doubt it. I'm not 100% certain. I just know that we have the original definitions from the website. And that's where I started my journey on MBTI. I really started it, to learning the system and getting to, use it to manipulate people. But, no. I don't think that they're described incorrectly because it's their system. So, if that's how they describe it, then so be it. It's just whether or not you agree with their descriptions of those functions. I'll use extroverted thinking to do things I find boring so I can get it out of the way and get back to researching things I'm interested in. That's fair. Yeah. we all use extroverted thinking in one way or another, but you can, once you know it, how it works and how it exists in real life, you'll catch yourself using answers that you aren't 100% sure on. So, for example, when if I'm using a study to cite, to cite information about a topic, I didn't personally do that research. I'm just choosing to believe that it's true, but usually it's based off of my, whether or not it makes sense to me that it is true. But if I'm pulling those numbers up, I don't actually know. And I'll say, well, this, the CDC says that these are the rates of infection for this type of disease. So, and then I can choose whether or not I want to believe that that's actually true. But if I'm using it for an argument, and of course you can't even trust that I believe that it's true or not. I'm just using it for an argument. I need to know which questions to prioritize. What you should be doing is listing out in your head which ones have the highest priority, and you should be asking, from top to bottom. And then that way you'll always ask the more important questions before the time's up. And it's 7:27, so another half an hour. If someone asks me if space is real, I'll just generally say, yeah, it's real. And it's like, well, why is space real? Because we have a whole lot of people that say it's real. There's some video evidence that suggests that it's real. And my own personal understanding of gravity and how liquids tend to form. And, I'm sure there's some extroverted thinking in there at some point. But trusting in what other people believe is true. So if enough people... an example I like to give is, let's say that there was a society of people that always lived in a cave. And they've never been outside of this cave. They can't see anything outside of the cave. Well, one day, people started saying, yes, outside of this cave, the sky is actually pink. People that have a preference for extroverted thinking will tell you that the sky outside of the cave is pink. Now, an introverted thinker preference person would be like, well, why is the sky pink? And of course, no one's going to give them an answer on that. Then they'll just tell you, I don't know if the sky is pink. That's just what everyone else says. Also, when the Earth was flat, back, however many hundreds of years ago, when the Earth was flat, the reason that people thought it was flat is because, well, everyone else said it was flat. And of course, they could look out into the horizon. As far as they can tell, it looked flat. It just went on forever. Or maybe there was some giant wall at the end of it. Who knows? And so extroverted thinkers would simply tell you that, yeah, the Earth is flat. And now the Earth is round. Now, once again, I haven't been, assuming that space is real, I haven't been out in space so that I could actually see the curvature of the Earth and really get a full perspective view of the Earth in a vacuum. So I have to take it on, now personally, I can just take it on faith that it is in fact round. But most people would simply say that, yeah, the Earth is round because everyone else says that it's round. And we have supposedly a lot of evidence, and we have a bunch of scientists that say that it is round. Therefore, extroverted thinking wins. And now the Earth is round. I think I'll ask some more dumb questions tomorrow. Great. Those are my favorite questions. Let's see. Bob, do you have more questions? Yes, Bob does. Why do people think introverted feeling means those people keep their emotions to themselves? I don't know why they think that. I can kind of understand what they might be thinking in that introverted is more towards the self. Do you think that's why? Yeah, we're going live again tomorrow. Gonna make sure that happens tomorrow.
Yeah, so Saturday is the 4-hour sessions, and then during the week is a 2-hour sessions.
And yet this one has gone on for almost 4 hours
Yeah.
on a Friday. Let's see. Why do people think that introverted feeling means those people keep their emotions in? I don't know why they think that. I don't know. I assume it's because someone else told them that that's what that's what that means, or if you take the word introverted and then feeling, therefore it's feelings on the inside, and so they keep their emotions to themselves. No, they don't. Introverted, there's been a number of introverted feelers that I've known that believe that because they don't just talk about their feelings all the time, that must mean that they keep their feelings to themselves. People often express their feelings in public. It's on their face. It's the things they choose to do, the hand movements, body language. They express their feelings, pretty regularly. Their distaste in something, whether or not just the simple phrase, "I don't care," you're literally telling me how you feel about the subject. Ta-da! So, the people that often actually keep their feelings on the inside because they're worried about disturbing the social order of things, that's extroverted feeling. And so they're more likely to keep their feelings from being expressed because they focus on people, they pay attention, they understand things like body language and hand gestures, facial expressions. And so they want to you'll see them remaining as neutral as possible because they're trying to control the situation. So.
And yet, it is still very obvious what they're doing. So I don't know how good they are.
It comes off as being fake as hell. But that's what you're going to get from them, is that they're being fake. They're saying these things to me because they want me to feel better, or they want me to stop crying, or they want me to just shut up. It's fake, and that's how it's going to come off, but that's the social contract for most people, is just be fake, pretend to give a crap about other people.
Yep.
I got the notification that you were live at 5:34 p.m. my time, and now it's 8:34 my time, so you have been live for 3 hours.
He meant that it was going to go for almost 4 hours because he's going to stop it at 8.
We're going to stop it at 8 o'clock my time, so I imagine that she lives in the Midwest or something.
Yeah. What
about I don't know? Well, I assume you're either lying or you're stating a fact. And that would be neutral. That's not expressing a feeling that you don't know something.
But I would say that, I do keep my emotions to myself most of the time, just because some people can read me better than others. It doesn't mean that they know. A lot of times when people think that they know about me is mostly because I want them to think that. But not because they really know me. Like, my entire personality has been this stay mysterious so people are more intrigued by you. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, if I join this, maybe a Discord where that's not my priority, then yeah, maybe I'll be more open about it. But if not, then I'll slowly start to revert to being more like, what's the word in English? Like empathetic, like more like reserved around people that I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on the person. Like, all of these things about cognitive functions depends, like, these certain behaviors on the person. Like, yes, they choose to use, a function as the primary, like there are some correlations between each other and like the way that you choose to live your life. But a lot of the, behaviors like this, it depends on how they grow up. It just depends on the scenario. So it really depends.
Really depends. Not the diaper. Can't wait till I'm wearing it.
We've been waiting for you. It's darker than you.
I don't think it's an FE. I think it's also FI. That's what I'm saying. Like those two things, there's a correlation. But yes, FI would try to. The question is, what about a fear that people don't like you? Is that an FE thing?
A fear? Well, we're talking about emotions if you fear something.
Yes.
Needs fixing. Watch out! Get out of there! You're the target.
And someone with FE in the higher position would want to be liked by others. They understand the importance of the harmony in a group.
And there is a lot of importance. It's a survival mechanism. Or at least that's what I've perceived it as. Seasons don't fear the
And then Bob says, but they worry about how others perceive them.
Yeah, I'm very concerned with how other people perceive me. It's a big concern. People,
So am I.
generally, mind you. It's people, not necessarily family or maybe friends. But I am worried about people. Creatures I don't know. Concerned with first impressions, things like that.
But yeah, I mean, so am I. I'm worried about how people perceive me. Am I worried in a setting if I don't necessarily stand anything to gain from those people? No. But if it's a normal setting where it's, you know, professional, personal, I have to see these people later on, then yes, I am going to care.
I'm worried that they perceive me as someone that's unapproachable. I think that's the big one. I don't want people to perceive me as unfriendly.
For me, it's liar. I don't want people to think that I lie, and I try to make it so hard for people to think that I don't lie. Sounds like I'm lying most of the time.
I tell people I lie regularly.
Yeah.
Like, I will lie. I lie all the time. I'm not as conscientious about whether or not I'm completely telling the truth. I got fired from a job for being unapproachable. Yeah,
Don't mind if I do.
that can happen.
Yeah. I am always perceived as unapproachable. I have a resting bee face. I don't know if I can say the word, so I'm just going to say bee face.
Did you say D or B?
Bee, as
I
in
was like
boy.
resting Dominican face. Is that? I'm not sure what that is, but
No, the Dominican's always smiling and bubbly and just fake overall. So,
Bob says you're a liar.
I know. I love you too, Mindos. See, it's the
People
first time I
lie
tell you
all the
that.
time. Everybody lies. Everybody lies. I just am not bothered by telling people that I do. Like, yeah, I'll lie.
Mm-hmm.
Job, buddy.
Yes, correct. Super says he's worried about people perceiving him wrong. Same thing. Like, I don't want them to perceive me as something that I'm not. Like, if you tell me, oh, you're this, this, and this, and then I'm going to be like, oh, no. Like, don't tell me what I am.
Don't you tell me what I am.
Yeah, don't tell me what I like, what I don't like. Don't act like you know me better than I know myself, because you just don't.
Rationalizing your emotions. Everybody has emotions, right? Supposedly. Thinking types do too. What function rationalizes their emotions? Well, the one function that does the rationalizing. It's introverted thinking.
Yes, because the NFP don't rationalize their emotions.
Sure they do.
Of course we do. That's all we do. That's all I do. Imagine if I was like this crazy person every single time someone said
Yes,
something.
imagine.
Right.
Good times.
Mm-hmm.
Need to do this more often.
We need to have Bob needs Bobby. You have a well of questions, which you need to be around more often too.
Yeah. Bob.
I do think there's a point where you can ask questions, but at that point you're gonna have to like go out and see it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like put in these scenarios of what you think you do and then how others see them. Like you and I, the way that I see things, you can relate to them. I'm pretty sure as much as I can relate to you, but we're different personality types because of how the functions that we use. But maybe the way that we see the world or do things is going to be relatable, and we're different. Okay, so Bob says, for example, I don't allow myself to feel almost all emotions. I find ways to talk myself out of saying that it doesn't make sense for me to feel that way.
Yep. It'll dry up tears real quick.
Yep. See, I agree with that too. That's what I always say. It makes no sense for me to feel a certain way, and then I just move on.
You'll be fine.
I'm here for you.
Yourself.
Yeah, I don't enjoy feeling things, so I try not to. Everything's a joke. Everything's a game. Just have fun with it.
It's coming for you.
That way I don't have to be sad about stuff. It's just a game. It's just
That
life.
sounds depressing, though.
Isn't it, though?
See, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, at the same time, we're different because it's not that I don't mind emotions. They just don't linger. Like, sometimes I wish I was more emotional. Like, I want to be more emotional sometimes so I can relate more to what people are telling me. Like, oh, why are you so cold? Why can't you feel this? And I'm like, I don't know, because to me, it's like, I wouldn't
Sounds like
be
you
that
don't
aroused
care.
or something.
So,
Yeah. Like, I want to.
I want to, but I can't. Life
Right.
experience can dull us to things. Like I said in the last stream, we live in a society where personal feelings aren't valued in an objective sense. You don't get paid because you're a big feeler, because you express your feelings all the time. That's not. You get paid for things like obedience, following the rules. And for the most part, if you want to live a generally livable existence, you need money. So you turn certain things down. You stop expressing them openly, directly. So let's see. Can you see my confusion about the functions? I don't. But you're asking questions. I don't think you're confused. I think you're just trying to get a different perspective.
Yeah, but I was off.
You're not gonna like this one.
The only reason why I can tell the difference between the ENTP and the ENFP is because of the clear FE. Because I could not. That's the only reason how I was like, yeah, I don't. That's the reason why I decided that I understood why I wasn't an ENTP. That was the whole thing. Because other than that, when he explains things, not just Urchin, but anybody that says them, I'm like, that makes sense to me because that's exactly how I would react to most things. But then, like that, the explanation that he gave today about how any TI, NFE, and any FIT work, I thought that was pretty spot on. Like, it was pretty good. So I might have to go watch it.
I don't even remember what I said.
I have to go rewatch it because I don't remember what you said either. But I remember thinking, okay, yeah, that's spot on. Like, that makes sense to me. But typically they sound the same.
but you won't be able. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a point where the questions are not going to be enough. You're going to have to go out and like actually see them in action, because that's what I did, and it was much easier. Like, I'm not. I realized very early that asking Urchin questions without applying what he was saying was a waste of time because I was not going to learn. Like,
I
I
give a
mean,
lot of
I
relatable answers. I try to, anyway.
yeah yeah.
I want people to go
Well,
see
you
it
know
for
what?
themselves. I don't want them to just listen to me and assume that it's correct. No, take what I say, go out and see it in real life.
Yeah. So then I would come back and be like, "Oh, hey, Urchin. Well, someone said this, this, and this, and this. What do you think this is?" Like, like I would come back with like more of, like the real life, because that way I learned quicker. Because I'm someone that I like to move on, right? I like to learn and then I can move on with my life. Like, if not, I find it a waste of time.
There
So
you go.
yeah, you're gonna have to put what he says out there and then come back to him and then be like, okay, this is what I saw, but it confused me because I related to this, but it's not what you would maybe consider FI or TI. And then he would explain it to me, and then I would go out and try to test it again. And yeah, it was a back.
I describe, if you're trying to pinpoint introverted thinking in real life, it's someone who is wanting to articulate their explanations to people. They want to explain to you their personal rationale as to why this must be true. And they go out of their way to explain it, even if the person doesn't want to hear it.
Yep. So another question is, I have another question. So high FI users, I thought I read about that they value authenticity in themselves and others, right? So why do unhealthy FI users feel threatened by others' opinions? It depends on the subject, because TI does the same thing. And I had this because Urchin had to tell me. Then it depends on what you're attacking. If you're attacking the TI's logic, then of course they're going to be offended. If it's an FI logic and you're attacking their values and morals, then of course they're going to be offended. Did I get that right, Urchin?
Sounds right.
Okay, but you explain it better. Go ahead.
Do I explain it better? That sounded pretty good.
And give them a better explanation than what I said.
Let's see here. High introverted feeling users, I thought read before they... I thought I read before that they value authenticity in themselves. Well, yeah, it's like the literal definition for introverted feeling is to seek harmony between personal values and actions. So it's doing what you feel is the right thing to do. Is wanting to find that a correlation between them. It's wanting to, or something like that. It's wanting to see a symmetry there between how you feel and what you choose to do. So there's that. They value authenticity in themselves and others. I don't know if all of them value authenticity in others. I mean, here's the thing, is that most people actually don't want other people to be authentic all the time. That's part of the social contract, is to be fake. A part of the social contract is to flex extroverted feeling. You wouldn't want authentic all the time. Especially as a woman. you would not want people to be authentic with you all the time. Imagine people like everyone for one day had like frontal lobe disinhibition or something, and they just said the first thing that came to their mind all the time, like for a day. Like, you wouldn't want that. No one would want that. Some women complain about being catcalled. It would be so much worse for a day.
I like being catcalled.
Oh, well, there you go. So maybe it'd be okay for you. They would say things you probably don't want to hear, and it might make you very uncomfortable. So, do introverted feelers prefer authenticity? Only in the things that they're interested in. That would be about it. Why do unhealthy introverted feeler users feel threatened by others' opinions? Well, they're only threatened by others' opinions if those opinions are negative towards the feeling, towards the user. It's the only time they're going to feel offended.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't know. Would it be different with ENFPs? Because I've had this discussion with Angelina and Elif, and all three of us get along pretty well, and we're kind of bothered
It never
by
stops
people that are more.
Opinionated?
Well, we're not bothered, but no. Well, they're just more in the emotional side because we don't understand why they're emotional, and we would rather them. Would that be an example of us not wanting authenticity at that point? Because we don't care,
Well,
like we just
yeah.
want them
I
to
mean,
fit in.
there's a bunch of reasons why we don't want authenticity. There's a whole slew of reasons. One being that if you're bringing down the in quote vibe of a social situation, then you're not going to want that. You don't want authentic. If everyone's having a good time and then someone comes in and starts talking about how sad they are about whatever, their dog died or their mom got cancer or they broke up with their boyfriend and now they've been eating a pound of ice cream and just being sad and watching romantic comedies. No one wants to hear that. We're trying to have a good time here. So do not be authentic. You keep that pushed down. You be fake. You pretend that everything's okay. You just say, yep, life's fine. What are you guys doing? Let's have fun. So it's what level of authenticity and about what particular subject. If someone asks you directly how you feel about something, then they probably want to know how you feel about it. They probably would rather you be authentic. That stereotypical problem where the wife complains to the counselor, he doesn't open up to me, he doesn't tell me anything. That's because they wanted their husband to be authentic and to be real with them. But men typically push that stuff way down for various reasons, one of which being that society tells us that men are not supposed to be that way, and so they've conditioned themselves to not be real with other people. So, but yeah, if you're someone's girlfriend and do you really want your boyfriend to be authentic all the time?
No.
Like, no, because you're gonna say something. Does this make me look fat? And the guy's gonna be like, yeah, you look really fat. As a matter of fact, there's this girl that lives next door that I absolutely find more attractive than you do, than I do to you. Find her way more attractive than you. It's like, do you want to hear that? No, you don't.
Yes.
You do not want to hear that.
Do.
No, you
Yes,
don't
you
want to hear that. That's heartbreaking, right? It's supposed to be.
It's not.
So
Because
it's like
being honest.
all it's going to do is cause problems, and then you're going to be like, oh wow, he's checking out the girl next door. I can't believe this. And I spent all this time. I made him that birthday cake 2 months ago. Took half my day to make it. My God, and then he's going to do this to me. You don't want to hear authentic. Most people don't want to hear authentic. You want to hear authentic when it suits you on a very specific subject, sure. But all the time, most people don't want to hear it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't subscribe to this idea. If you don't know that the chick next to you is hot, and if you don't know that you look fat in a dress, that's on you, ma'am.
That's
you
on
should
you,
know that.
ma'am. It's Brienne. It's been a while. How much longer are you streaming for? You're just now making it. We are streaming for another 6 minutes. That is how long we're streaming for. We can answer one of your questions, though, for sure, if you have a question today. TI struggles to explain their logic. That shouldn't struggle to explain their logic if they preference it a lot. Is that because it's subjective? Well, I suppose it's your personal understanding of a situation. That's maybe your perspective is of course subjective. I explain my logic step by step to show how I got from this to this. Yeah, and that makes sense. It shouldn't be a struggle, though. You should be able to explain it. Whether or not it may require more explanation if someone's not following along, but that really just depends on who you're talking to. If you talk to other introverted thinkers, they're more likely to follow along with what you're saying. Is there a... What?
I explain my logic a lot because growing up, nobody cared, so I just don't bother.
Nobody cares.
Every single time I went and tried to explain why I thought something, my friends or my parents would be like, "Okay," and then they would just want me to shut up. So what's the point of explaining it? Nobody wants to listen to that, so then I just don't do it.
There you go. We all have our reasons. Is there a function or functions that struggle to read between the lines? There's not. I wouldn't say that there is any one particular function. I would say that there's many
SEFI?
reasons. There's many reasons why we wouldn't read between the lines on things to find the hidden meanings of things. But typically, you know, yes, I would say that ISFPs and ESFPs probably have a more difficult time reading between the lines, I would imagine. But I would also say the same of, us, maybe like ISTJs, ESTJs may have a more difficult time with context. But I've also seen in certain social situations, though, I've seen ISTPs and INTPs have a difficult time reading between the lines. When it comes to the context of a social situation, they may have a more difficult time. Myriad reasons. Trying to diagnose someone's, their mind, the why of who they are. So usually when something occurs in life, it's usually more than just one thing that happens. It's usually multiple things that cause something to happen. Marilyn Monroe, ESFP. We were just talking about her. I was talking about her earlier today. I want people to be honest and direct with me because I can struggle to know if someone means something else. But you would, of course, want to phrase that a little differently. You don't want people to always be honest and direct with you. When you ask a question, you want people to be honest and direct, most certainly. And that's what I want out of people as well. I would prefer people to be real with me when I'm asking them a question, but I don't want them to be real with me all the time. That would be exhausting. Are ESFPs overwhelmingly popular? Because I've been typing so many people as ESFP. As we move forward in the United States, you will see more ISTJs and ESFPs as we move forward. Are they popular? Some of them get to be popular, most of them don't, as you can imagine. To be popular and, well, famous, obviously, not everyone gets to be famous. A lot of ESFPs and ISTJs end up in prison. Well, not a lot of them, but most of our prison population is going to be ISTJs and ESFPs. So it's kind of like getting famous. Well, it's more infamous, I suppose. But yeah, most people are going to be ESFPs and ISTJs. You'll find a large chunk of them, especially depending on where you live. What time is the streams tomorrow so I can be ready? I could probably start it at like noon to 1, somewhere in there, depending on how lazy I'm being that particular afternoon. It's almost drinky time. As a matter of fact, it is drinky time. It's been drinky time for the past 4 hours.
It's eating time.
Yes, noon, West Coast, PST, noon. Because I live in Nevada. But yeah.
Brianna, you're in the Discord, right? So you can get the notifications?
Yeah, Brianna. You're in the Discord, right?
I hope the answer is yes.
The answer should be yes.
Yes. If not, we're dragging you in there right now.
Let's see. Should I stop asking so many questions? Well, I think you shouldn't stop, because that's what keeps the stream going, is me talking. So you ask questions, I'll talk.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. You have to be around more.
You got to be around more to ask questions.
Yeah.
And she ain't in the Discord.
I assumed because I haven't never seen her ask a question in the Discord.
That's probably it, yeah.
Well, Brianna, join us.
Yeah. One of us. One of us. Be a part of my cult.
Yes. I had a chat going for MBTI, but now we've changed it to the typology chat, so that's what we're using. If you have MBTI questions, just drop them in there.
Yeah, what she said.
Let's do this.
And if you want to be typed by Urchin, although, you know, that's also a great experience. You can
It's a
also
great
submit an application.
experience.
Here's the thing. I realized what I remember that she believes her type is, and I was like, oh, maybe that's not gonna go great, but like
Yeah, you can tag me with more questions and I'll get around to them. You know, in between hunts. Brianna doesn't have Discord then.
Oh, okay, Brianna. How do you join? Well, first download Discord, and then I'll send you.
There you go.
And then, yeah. So download the Discord, and then when you have downloaded it, put your. I'll give you my Discord tag, and then we can add each other. Or you can give me your Discord tag, and I'll return back to the comment section, and I'll send you a friend request. That way, it's easier for you. And then you can delete your comments, so it's not just, you know, for everybody to take.
I asked my hoe the other day if I was part of a cult, and I was talking about your Discord. Well, I haven't demanded things yet, which is usually the sign of a cult. You know, like you gotta give up, let's say, 10% of your yearly income to the Discord or something. We're not quite there yet, but we'll get there eventually.
Will we?
Maybe.
Oh,
I'm hoping. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just going in random directions. Oh, goodness. Let's see. As long as I'm not asked to do anything against my will, I'll be part of the cult. Okay. So you want to be in the cult, but not be in the cult. Got it. Okay.
That's not how the cult works.
That's
well,
not how the cult works, but figure it out.
Brianna, you can also click on Street Urchin and then go to the About section on the YouTube channel, and you'll see the link for the Discord there. So we will wait for you in the Discord at some point. No pressure, of course.
No pressure.
Know, it would just be happy if you don't. That's it. Because you're always around, so, you know.
I'm just gonna
want to talk to you.
Impressive. I'll show you my real angry side.
Okay, currently downloading. Perfect.
You're not gonna like
Perfect. All right, one more question and then the stream goes bye-bye.
Okay, my turn now.
One more. Anybody. First question gets answered.
This is gonna hurt. You're not gonna like this one. It's over. I'll show you my.
Brianna, I sent you my username. Lady Ben. Just type that and add me as a friend, and I can
Extroverted
add you.
intuition make you a slow learner? Yeah, if you're constantly being distracted by literally any other thought in your head, then yeah, that can absolutely make you a slow learner. But on the other hand, if you're super interested in the subject you're trying to learn, it can make it go by a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. All right, save your questions for tomorrow. Or I guess you can ask me on the Discord. It's whatever.
Nope, save them for tomorrow. It's a 4-hour stream.
For another 4-hour stream or thereabouts. Said TI
Yes.
needing to understand everything. Well, TI doesn't need to understand everything, just needs to understand what's being presented to it. But yes, I do typically try to understand, especially things that I'm interested in. I want to understand how it works so that I can maybe better manipulate the information. All right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up to the stream. All like 9 of you that showed up.
Yeah,
Of
buddy.
course, I always have fun doing this. And you'll be back to terrorize me tomorrow. Remember to like the stream. That supposedly helps on things. And don't forget to sign up for the Discord. I'll be there, most likely. Is there anything else I missed, Ben?
No, we got Brianna on Discord. Thank you.
There you go. We got it all figured out. So talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.